All right. What's going on?
Hello, peoples.
Hello. I see we have one peoples. We have Alex in the chat.
Hello, Alex peoples.
Hello, Alex peoples. Alex, let us know if this sounds and looks okay, because I changed some stuff. So
I have a new microphone.
You do have a new microphone. It sounds nifty.
It is pretty nifty. Like, I feel like I'm all official now that you guys got me a new microphone. Thank you, guys. I'm super stoked about it. That's one of the things that happened to me this summer.
Yeah. So for those that are maybe tuning into this later or just aren't making themselves known, he says, sounds good. Joe's here. Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hello. Did watch this later? We are Geeking Poetic Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. This feline keeper over here, she is the keeper of the felines.
I sure am. I'm Megan. How you doing?
And then down there with his proud of his Polish sweatshirt over there and everything with the hair that if you notice each episode, it just keeps getting longer and longer. He's going to look like me.
I got some catching up to do.
He'll be there before you know it. It is none other than
Matt Valukas. What's up, yo?
And bad spelling tonight, Joe. That's okay. We are not going to be nitpicking people who have spelling issues in the live chat. For those that are listening and wonder who we might, if you're listening to this and going, who are they talking to? Who's Joe? Who's Alex? Well, these are our erstwhile friends and companions from the Geeking Squad group over there, and they are joining us in the live chat as we're recording this tonight.
I don't think I've ever had an erstwhile friend.
No?
Bunch of firsts for me tonight. New microphone, having erstwhile friends. This is great. Man.
Well, anyway, so what are we here? This is a little bit, hey, speaking of erstwhile friends.
Hello, Adam Kazregas.
It is the Lithuanian Thunder himself.
Thunder.
Explode.
Explode.
Sunder. Adam Kazregas. Explode.
This has gone off the rails very quickly.
Yeah,
well,
it took 3.5 minutes.
But you know what? That's okay, because this is going to be a different kind of episode.
It is.
It's not quite, there's still a theme, but it's not quite as specific like we usually do. Like usually it's about, mysteries or magic or Star Wars or something like that. This time we're just talking about all those kind of things that fall within a time period, which is summer of this.
The best time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's Mom messaging from Vermont.
Hello, Vermont.
You're on vacation. You got nothing better to do than to sit there and
listen to us.
Listen to us.
That's awesome support, though.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, to your point, like we didn't have many podcasts over the summer because we were really too busy just enjoying it.
Yes.
And we were talking a couple of weeks ago about what should our next show be. And we were discussing all these cool things that we did over the summer. We're like, well, let's just share it with everybody else and just kind of have a free-for-all. So we also want to hear about what you guys did this summer, too. So if you guys are on the chat, make sure you're telling us what you did. Maybe you did some of the same stuff that we did, and we want to talk about it all together.
Yeah, because we will be happy to talk about the stuff that you've got to throw in there, because, we've all got our stuff.
You might want to do it, too.
Exactly. It's a free-for-all. Without a doubt, I whip it out. Got me a rock and roll band. It's a free-for-all. Yeah, anyway.
Oh,
so
Alex is in Vermont, too?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Our whole
everybody's in Vermont.
Everybody's in Vermont tonight. This is the Vermont show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Geeking Vermont show.
Tasty maple syrup.
Yep. And seafood.
And seafood.
I'm guessing.
Chowder.
I'm so jealous.
Chowders, yeah.
Chowder.
Sorry, New Hampshire. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, New Hampshire. Say yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know where you guys want to start. Should we just kind of go down a list
Jump
and
in?
Talk
and
about?
that's what's weird to me. Like usually we have a format of what we're going to follow. We're going to count things down, and we didn't even discuss how we were going to talk about our stuff today.
No, but Joe just kind of took the lead for us.
Oh,
He
there we
said,
go, Joe. Take over.
Yeah.
Oh.
Carrie B and he saw Underground Prophets. I don't know. Boy, you wasted your time on that stupid band. Huh?
They're awesome.
Come see them again, actually.
I know, and again, and again, and again. But they went and saw Underground Prophets. They saw Halsey. They saw the White Sox, and they went to Riot Fest.
I wanted to go to Riot Fest this year.
I know.
Somebody told me I should join him, but was like, I don't have an extra ticket for you. I'm like, you son of a...
Well, I bought the ticket like a bazillion years ago. I mentioned it multiple times that I was going and that I got the ticket, and you were just like, oh, yeah, cool. And then it wasn't until
you mentioning that you were going to Riot Fest is not an invitation to go to Riot Fest. You're like, cool, I'm going to Riot Fest. I'm like, that's awesome, man. Good for you. I'm not going to invite myself along.
No, but you could have just been like, if you would have been like, oh, man, I'd really like to go to Riot Fest.
I should get a ticket to do that.
Yeah,
too.
I would have been like, absolutely, go with me.
Like I should have done for Tears for Fears. I should have bought a ticket and gone.
So we're going to jump into concerts right away. Okay,
Let's do it.
Let's not bicker, but let's get into the concerts.
No, the concert and the bickering is going to
go hand in hand. Okay, so Riot Fest. You went to Riot Fest.
Yeah. And you want to know about it?
Yes.
Sure.
Please.
Riot Fest was awesome.
Awesome. What else did you do?
The Riot Fest was really cool. Shut up. Riot Fest was really cool. There was a little bit of controversy around that fest this year because a lot of the residents in the area were like openly like picketing and protesting it being there because they were saying it was too much of an inconvenience for the people of the neighborhood. Other people like me said it's 3 days, like it's just like Pierogi Fest or any other thing, or Rock and Rail and Griffith. It's an inconvenience on the locals. It is, but it's a lot of fun. By all accounts, it seemed like they were trying really hard to maintain the crowd there, at least on the outside and stuff.
I was just going to say, that's the key, is it's organized chaos, not just complete bedlam.
Yeah.
And that's the inconvenience you can handle, not just...
Well, I know
I can't even get in my garage because there are all these people are in my way.
Yeah.
They just parked the car in my driveway.
Well, and that's happened in years past, and so they were very vocal about it this year. So I think they were trying extra hard. I know there was some criticism about how many people were there on the Friday night for My Chemical Romance. Apparently, it was, well, I was there, but I didn't get like close, Apparently, like up front by the stage for My Chemical Romance, it was just like a mad crush. Like people were just getting squished, and there was a lot of younger kids and stuff that were there for that. I didn't go up close until Saturday night because one of the main bands I wanted to see was playing, and that was the Misfits. And you would have thought, like, oh, it's the Misfits, that's going to get kind of kooky. It didn't. I think we're all just too old to get kooky now.
I'm too old to mosh.
Exactly. A Misfits mosh pit nowadays is not quite like it used to be. Oh. So the Misfits were great. I saw them. I saw the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. They put on an incredible show. 9 Inch Nails blew me away. I'm not like the hugest 9 Inch Nails fan. Like I like them, like I like some of their songs and stuff, but I couldn't believe how good they were. I was really stunned at what a great, like I would totally pay to go see them again. So Nails is great. One of my all-time favorite bands, the Lunatics, played. I haven't seen them since 1999 or 2000 or something like that. They were as good or better than they've ever been. They were amazing. Man, it's just tons of really good acts there. Bad Religion was amazing.
They were who I wanted to see.
I know. Yeah. I know.
They're on my bucket list.
I know. Well, next time Bad Religion comes around, let's just go. Like, let's just get tickets and go. It doesn't have to be Riot Fest. We got comments. Joe says, Carrie and I were there on Sunday. Yeah, as a 9 Inch Nails kicked ass. Action Bronson. I missed Action Bronson. I did catch some Coolio, which was kind of cool. Got to hear some Gangster's Paradise. I heard a little bit. I got to catch just a hair of the Ice Cube set because they put Ice Cube on at the same time as 9 Inch Nails, which was like,
that sucks.
Why would you do that? Jimmy Eat World was very good. I think I messaged you about that, didn't I?
Yeah.
When I was watching them. So I'm not like real big on Jimmy Eat World. I know a couple of their songs. I play with Eric Shades, so of course I've played the middle like 500 million times between him and Rick, played that song. So I know that one and one other one, but I was just checking them out and I'm like, man, this is a really solid band. Like I feel bad for some of those bands because a lot of those like later 90s, early 2000s bands are in that weird stage right now where they're sort of like not quite old enough to be like retro cool, but not current enough either. You know what I mean? So, and Jimmy Eat World is kind of like one of those where it's like, where have they been?
Yeah.
They were great. If you're into that kind of music, you like their stuff, go see them. They were great.
Nice.
So, anyway, Meg, what about you? What about concerts that you saw?
We went and saw Journey and Toto.
Oh yeah,
with Luke and Denise in May. That was awesome. It's the first time I've seen Toto. But I really enjoyed that. We saw Candlebox also in May for my birthday.
Yeah, here I think.
Yeah, I think that's from the Toto show there.
Yeah, that's
Journey. Yeah, got my Journey.
Megan
shirt
with the
like
largest.
a big old nice drink. It was super yummy.
With your
yeah, and you saw Candlebox up at the City Winery, right?
We did, yeah.
That is one of my favorite places to see a show. Everything there is just so incredibly intimate.
I got my Candlebox shirt on right now. Yep. Yeah, that place
That
is
was
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And that was new to me, like that place. I've always heard of it, but I'd never been there. Wow, that's a great place. And there's a place that I'm like, oh man, I would love to play this place.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. Like it's tiny. It's it's almost like a little shotgun type theater,
right?
But like even if you're at the back of the crowd, you're still only like maybe 25 yards away from people or from the main stage. It's awesome. Yeah, I saw 2 different shows there this summer. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject about how cool the theater was when I
No,
hear
it
about
was
your
a
shows.
very cool theater. I kept going, oh wow, this is really really nice. But Candlebox, who's the guy? I don't know their names. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But he was like, am I fat? We were like sitting off the side. He's like, do I look fat? Am I okay?
He was all
It was really
self-conscious because he was sitting on a stool because they were doing this acoustic thing.
Yeah.
And I just had to laugh because I was thinking about like me and you where we're always like, oh, let's not sit. Can we stand? Let's stand.
Nobody
and
see
do
my
it.
rolls.
Yeah, we don't. It's so uncomfortable. We got a bunch more people real quick popping in there and stuff. Chuck's in there. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Dad.
Tammy's in there. She said last band she saw was Dorothy. Okay. You had a lame summer. I'm sorry you had a lame summer, Tammy. That's a bummer. You got some making up to do then. There better be some good concerts coming in the winter then to go see. Alex is saying Guitarless 9 Inch Nails, one of the best concerts he ever saw. Yeah, I was really surprised. And he was only at the show to see Soundgarden, who he ended up being disappointed by. Okay, because we played, November's Doom played with Soundgarden back in 2014, and they were fabulous. They were amazing. Yeah, they sounded great. So that's a bummer. But anyway, any other
we
concerts?
saw Poison, Def Leppard, and Motley Crue.
Oh yeah, that was
I was down in Indianapolis.
2/3 good.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to the one at Wrigley. And,
that's right.
Yeah, and I got COVID the week before,
Yes.
so I was unable to go check that out. And I was really excited about that one. Motley Crue is like that's my band. They're my boys.
Yeah.
Before Vince turned into the Heat Miser and everything. But
And the Bumble.
Yeah, and the Bumble. Yeah, and, there we go. Poison is always putting on a good show, but Def Leppard I hadn't seen before, and they were the ones that I really wanted to check out.
That was my bucket list. I'd never, in my whole life, I've been listening to Def Leppard since '82, and I never saw them. So that was big for me, and they were great.
Yeah.
I thought
Really good.
A lot of tracks. They use, because their albums are so heavily produced. There's a lot of vocals and layers of things on tracks. But I mean, they're still playing, and Joe Elliott, like you could tell his vocal was live, and he's killing it.
Yeah, his voice has held up
He
so well over the years.
great. Unlike Vince Neil.
That was awful.
Motley Crue. And I mean, I loved Motley Crue. It was such a big band for me. They were just not good. Poison. I've seen Poison. The first time I ever saw Poison was at Holiday Star Theater in 1986, opening for Quiet Riot.
Wow.
And so I've seen Poison on almost every one of their major tours and stuff. I've seen them for years. That was one of the best sounding Poison shows I ever saw. Like I couldn't believe how good they were. I'm like, CeCe's got his act together. Like he looked good. He was energetic. He was playing tight. Bobby looked great. Like all the vocals were on, perfect. And again, they weren't using tracks or anything like that. It was just a 4-piece rock band. Killer. So yeah, if anybody out there is kind of into Poison and you haven't seen them, now's a good time to go see them, because they got their shit together, man. They sounded great. Brett seemed like he was having a ball,
Yeah,
so
he did.
that was a really good one.
And then, of course, we snuck in right at the finish line of summer, Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was awesome. That
Right
was
at the finish line.
and we went to go see him last week.
Yeah.
And Again, bucket list guy for me. I know, Larry, you've seen him a ton of times.
Yeah.
Megan, was your first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The theatrics of it was everything I was expecting. Like, you don't have to know a single song he plays to enjoy his show because of the theatrics and the performances and the things that happen on stage. It's like a little play that's happening while
Exactly.
he's
It's what I kept
doing the
thinking.
show.
This is more like a play with a musical play. Oh, I guess they're all musical, aren't they?
No, there's musicals and there's plays. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that with his wife coming out there and interacting with him and
I know,
whipping him with the whip. I was like, oh, I like that. Give me one of those.
I like the fake guillotine part. That was really cool.
Yeah.
That's classic. I mean, Alice Cooper is just good theater. It really is at this point almost like going to see a musical, a rock musical kind of thing, because it's horror in like the most kind of safe PG kind of way and everything, and it is kind of nice, it's not threatening. It's the kind of thing you can take your kids to and be like, yeah, they'll be okay with this, whereas you wouldn't necessarily want to take your young kids to certain, I don't know.
Guar or something.
Yeah, Guar is, exactly. Or even other, like, Slipknot or certain other things where it's like, this might be a little rough for them. It's like Cooper is like a really good, you could take the family to, and songs are so silly.
Yeah, they are.
Feed My Frankenstein and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's what I love.
It's a
Like,
lot of fun.
You and I fall in different, like, Cooper genres as far as like when the albums came out,
right?
And I really got into him right around the time that Poison came out and everything, so like that, like mid late 80s into the 90s, and like 3/4 of the stuff he played that night was all of that stuff, so it fell in line with what I wanted to hear. It was great.
Bed of Nails and Hey Stupid and House of
Fire
and all that. Yeah, it was great. I'm really glad you guys liked it, because I was hoping, that's why I wanted you guys to go, because especially Matt, when you said you were like, oh, I've always wanted to see that. I'm like, oh, good. I hope this is good, because
it did not disappoint.
I've seen different levels of. I mean, I've never seen Alice be bad, but I've seen shows where I was like, that was okay. Either due to song selection or just what they were doing show wise. Especially, I think the last time I saw Cooper, I forget, he was opening for somebody. And he didn't have as much of the show going on. It was way more stripped down. It was still good, but it wasn't the experience. And I wanted you to get more of the experience, even though we did get kind of a amended,
a truncated version of it.
Truncated version, exactly, of it. They because it being at the Horseshoe Casino, they were like, okay, 9:45, you're out of here.
Yep.
So they did cut it down compared to some of the other nights on the tour. When I was looking at the set list, there's a few songs that they didn't do that I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Because even you were like, that's it. Like, it felt like it went by so fast and everything. So yeah. But if you get a chance to see him again, if he does another big tour, we should go. But if not, at least I'm happy you got to see a good one.
I kept thinking the whole time, I was like, I hope I can move like him when I'm his age.
Right?
He looked incredible.
Because he's late 70s, and he was moving like nobody's
Nothing,
business.
Like he's 30
look at
or
his
something.
wife.
Like, holy,
Look at Cheryl. I mean, Cheryl's younger.
I thought she was like a 20-year-old, actress.
I mean, she's younger than him, but not by much. She's probably in her like mid 60s or so at this point.
Damn.
And she was dancing and swirling around and doing all this stuff and
throwing herself on the ground.
She was fully in it.
Yeah, she had that like steampunk witch thing going on that was just awesome. Yeah, she was really killer.
Yeah, so kudos to them that they're still doing it and putting on such a great show. Yeah. Matthew, what about you? You want to bring up concerts?
God, there were so many that I saw this summer, and we talked about this, off camera. Yeah. That every concert that we had bought tickets to pre-COVID, everything happened this summer. Yeah. So like I had so many tickets that came to fruition. The best one that I saw this summer was at City Winery. Yeah. My wife and I love a singer by the name of Alan Doyle. And he was part of the band Great Big Sea, and they were big in the 90s. They were like a Canadian Newfoundland band that we always loved their stuff. And Alan, his stuff that he sings is very life is good, always be positive no matter what's going on. You're where you're supposed to be and you're going to get where you need to get to. But he sings it in this very non-cheesy way. Like every song is just very inspirational. After like you listen to him, you're like, holy frick, that was great. And I don't fanboy that often, but for him, I totally fanboyed. And Carrie Ann and I had the opportunity to go backstage and meet him and everything like that. It was really cool. But we did Colin Hay. We saw him up in Milwaukee at the Pabst Theater.
That's awesome.
Which was amazing. And it was him doing acoustic. It was him, like 5 acoustic guitars behind him, and he'd pick one up, tell a little story. It was like watching VH1 storytellers.
Right.
And it was just amazing. Like, it was so intimate, and it was great. We saw the triple bill of Bare Naked Ladies, Toad the Wet Sprocket, and the Gin Blossoms.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
That's the one I'm the most jealous of, is that you saw
Gin Blossoms.
It was
that whole show.
Oh, it was great. And that was one of those like pre-COVID ones, and it was supposed to be at Waverly Island, which I don't mind at all, but it ended up moving to the Chicago Theater, and we were first row balcony, as you can see by the picture, and like everything, it was the perfect place to be. You and I saw Tears for Fears and Garbage.
That was so good.
And to me, the thing about Tears for Fears, I've loved them since the 80s. And well, I want the bands that I love from the 80s to keep making music now. I'm always apprehensive because I don't want it to suck.
Right.
I don't want it to feel like they should have stopped in the 80s when their stuff was good, and now they're just trying a little too hard. And with Tears for Fears and the Tipping Point album that they put out, I loved every single song on that, like back to front. And it's got them, but it's almost got this almost like electronica chill type feel to it that I wasn't expecting it, but every single song on that album, I can listen to over and over and over. And to watch them play, they have not missed a beat. Both voices sound fantastic. Yeah. It was great. Like you and I haven't really had the chance to talk too much about what we thought about the show. I know we were planning on doing it on this thing, so I'm curious what you thought about it too. Yeah,
because that was a bucket list for me. I've loved Tears for Fears since, well, I was going to say Songs from the Big Chair, but I mean, even before that, what was the first album called? What was it called? Something like The Hurting or something like that. I forget. But I really liked them with Songs from the Big Chair. That's the one that really hooked me in, and I've loved them ever since. And to your point, they're one of those few bands that really shows just how good. I feel like for years that band was kind of written off as just an 80s band. You know what I mean? Like that was it, and it's like, no, that this is a legitimately good creative band, and they put out that new album. It's as good as anything else out there.
Absolutely.
It's certainly as good as anything they ever did before. And it's a silly word to use, but it's relevant, like it just sounds relevant. Like it's not the kind of thing where I mean, I could see some 18-year-old kid hearing that Tears for Fears album, not knowing anything about them, right? And just being like, this is good. This like, I get this. It sounds current while at the same time still sounding true to Tears for Fears.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
It was The Hurting. Thank you, Joe. That was their
we
debut.
need to hire Joe to be our
yeah, he's like our fact checker, and I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. But no, like, it was just an amazing concert, and I was so glad that we got the opportunity to see them. I know you got to see, I want to bounce back and forth a little bit, but I know you had the chance to see Duran Duran, and they're a bucket list band. And my wife has seen them several times, and I'm like, I want to go. And she's like, I would go, but United said it's not the best place to see them.
And
they're a little bit more intimate. And then you went, and like 18, 19 friends that I knew were there, and they're putting on this kick-ass show. And I'm like, fuck, I should have gone. So that's my one summer regret concert.
Well, the only thing I'll say, we talked about this before, but the only thing I'll say, just like you being bummed about missing Motley Crue, and I'm like, well, don't be too bummed because it wasn't the best Motley Crue show I've ever seen. Not the worst, but it left something to be desired. Duran Duran, in terms of their performance and their song selection, fabulous, excellent. They sounded great. Simon sounded beautiful, just great. But whoever it was they have out with them doing the front of house sound, I don't know.
Everybody said it was boomingly loud. It was uncomfortably loud.
Painfully loud. And I mean, I'm getting older and I don't necessarily want things to be that loud anyway, but it's like you go to see certain shows, if I'm going to see like a fucking black metal show or something, I kind of expect that it's going to be really loud. And, you're going, like in the days you go see Motorhead and you're like, oh, it's going to be loud. When I go to see Duran Duran, I don't need it to be painfully loud. I just need it to be clear. And to the point is, the surprise for me on that show, one of the highlights for me of this summer, was getting to see Nile Rodgers and Chic open for Duran Duran. Now, I was like intrigued by that because I like Chic. I respect Nile Rodgers tremendously as a player and as a producer. But I wouldn't have said they were a bucket list for me. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh, I gotta see this band. Now that I've seen them, I'm like, oh my God, this is one of the best bands I've ever seen. Like, they were fantastic. They were so good. They not only did the chic songs like Good Times and Le Freak and stuff, but they did a bunch of the stuff that Niall was known for writing and producing. So they did a couple songs off of Bowie's Let's Dance album. They did a couple songs by Madonna from Like a Virgin. They did Upside Down by Diana Ross. They did, so everything they played was hit.
Nice.
It just wasn't all necessarily chic, known under chic, but on a lot of those records, what people don't understand is, like, if you listen to like the Bowie record or the Madonna record, it's chic.
Yeah.
It's like that bass player and those people, they're acting as session musicians essentially, and Nile Rodgers playing, and they were so good. Like, everything, it wasn't one of those things where you go, oh, they're, it's good for how old they are. You know what I mean? We do that a lot of times.
You kind of put that caveat.
Where you go, you go, oh, well, considering how old they are, it's really good. No, they were just really good. So that definitely offset some of my disappointment at the sonics of Duran Duran and stuff like that, because I feel like it hurt Duran Duran to be like that. I would much rather go see them at like a Chicago theater or something where odds are they would have the sound a little bit more in check, because it's not a big,
arena type place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, so the last one I want to talk about, and it kind of piggybacks off your session musicians, is one of the bands that I will go to see just about every time they're in town is called Here Come the Mummies.
A band I've always heard of and heard about.
They're a fantastic funk fusion band. Choreography, horns, the whole thing, but they're a bunch of session musicians who can't go out and tour under their own names.
Right.
So they dress up as mummies. They're completely wrapped up. They don't talk in between sets or songs or anything like that. Much like Alice Cooper, it's just one song into another song into another song, and it's a huge performance. But they do a lot of like goofy stuff. Like at one point, one of the guys will come out playing the cowbell, but it's attached to his hips, so he's like crotch thrusting, and like he'll do that. But they'll do a couple of like drum offs back and forth, tossing some sticks. It's a really cool performance piece. But most of their songs are sexual entendres in nature. So it's like a 12-year-old kid wrote these songs, and it's just got that kind of like goofiness to it. But it's amazing. But so we saw them at House of Blues. But the best thing about that concert that I was not expecting is they had an opener called Sax Squatch.
Yeah.
And it was a guy dressed in a Sasquatch costume that played saxophone. And he had his laptop up there, and he had a bunch of like pre-mixed stuff. And he's just jamming along with the saxophone with this whole electronica thing going on behind him, light show and everything. And by describing that, it sounds like something you're like, why in the hell? That's a novelty thing. But this dude was so good. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he did like Careless Whisper, and the crowd goes wild, which is awesome. And then he did the Cantina song from Star Wars on it and everything. But like enough that like it was kitschy enough every third or fourth song. You're like, oh, that's awesome. And then he would do his own thing. So yeah, it was, if you have the chance, Sax Squatch. Check him out. Really cool.
It's always got to be a gimmick.
Always a gimmick.
Sometimes it works,
Yes.
Now, didn't you guys, because I was supposed to go and I got sick, go see Bush and Breaking Benjamin?
Yes, I did.
You did?
I was invited to go, and I was also under the weather for that one as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a great show. It was ironic that now here's the thing. I like all three of those bands. I like Chains, I like Benjamin, and I like Bush. But
yeah, you do.
Boy, oh boy. So it's ironic that Bush ended up opening the show, because I guess technically Breaking Benjamin is a bigger band at this point time. Yeah. They've got quite a following and everything. I thought they were the least good of the three. Some of that had to do with the way their live sound was, because you could tell that they were the only band of the three that wasn't using like live amps. They were using modelers, you're probably using XFX and Kempers and things like that, just going straight into the PA. And while that sounds technically okay, when you put that up against bands like Bush, who were up there literally with like Marshall stacks and just a grittier rock kind of sound, not that really tight processed 21st century modern metal alternative sound. When you hear that rock sound, it just so vibrates your gut so much more. I don't know. I think I would have liked Breaking Benjamin's show better if it would have just been them. But sandwiched in between what we got from Alice in Chains and what we got from Bush, it felt like a little bit of a lull and everything. And Bush was just wonderful.
Well, last time I saw them, they stole the show. They are freaking amazing.
Yeah, they were equally as good, if not better, than this time.
Yeah, Rushdale's voice is
so
just
upset.
awesome.
Oh man, and the band, like the lineup he's got. Oh God, they're so good. Another band I highly recommend going to see Bush. Like, again, if people like write them off and are like, oh, they're those '90s kind of second gen grunge bands. No.
They're going out there stealing shows.
There's
from the
so
kids.
much. There's so much better than that. And they played some of their new stuff, man. Oh, it's fucking heavy. It's really. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just funny because I listened to like the new, like what they're doing, and I was listening to Alice in Chains, and I'm like, it's so funny that like with me and November's Doom that we're more closely associated with like the doom death metal underground kind of thing. But like Vito and I were sitting there watching this show, and we were both talking about it.
Vito that I was picturing.
That's
I had
it,
the wrong Geeking Poetic guy.
It's cool.
Yeah, Vito was.
I'll take it. I have no problem with that.
Vito, more height, less hair.
Yes.
But we were sitting there talking about it, and we were just both agreeing. We're like, we feel so much more kindred with bands like that, like with Bush and Alice in Chains and stuff, like in terms of where they're coming from, than we would going to see, Opeth and My Dying Bride and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's so yeah. I loved it. I'm really bummed you guys missed it.
Were there any shows that you guys wanted to see this summer that you missed?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I'm sure there always is because there's so many concerts that I would love to go to.
For me, this year it was Collective Soul. They're also a bucket list band, but they also kind of fall into that same category
too, I bet.
of that, the Candlebox and Alice in Chains and Bush Blur or whatever. But Collective Soul has just been one of those bands that, like, when you talk about, I've listened to their live albums like so many times, and they've got that same heavy sound and that energy, and it's so much fun. And I found out that they were coming to Hard Rock Casino over here.
Right.
And I was actually out of town that weekend. And then because I wanted to go and I couldn't, my wife was kind enough. She's like, well, they're playing the next week at the Joliet State Fair of all things. She's like, let's make the trip out to Joliet. It was them and like Sugar Ray and like two or three others like 90s bands that were all lumped together. Heart was there too. And I wanted to check them out. And that was the Friday that we got the Rona. So, yeah. So the Rona knocked me out of like 3 or 4 concerts.
Summertime Rona is not good.
Did you guys survive this summer?
Yes, I did.
Yeah?
From the Rona, yeah.
From the Rona?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why I watch so many movies.
Yeah.
I am bummed. I did not see one country concert this summer.
What?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I got my big bucket list coming up this weekend.
Which is?
The Judds.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
You mean
is it the Judd?
The Judd.
The
Yeah,
Judd.
it's the Judd
Yeah.
now, but
it is
so
singular
disappointed.
Judd.
But I'm super excited to see the tributes and all that. Me and my mom are going out to Ohio,
That's awesome.
spending the weekend, having a girls' weekend. So
Nice.
so stoked.
Yeah, this weekend I get to knock off a couple of big bucket list ones for me because of New Order and Pet Shop Boys.
Fuck off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do you want to go?
Do you have an extra ticket?
I
He
do.
does.
You do?
Yeah, we'll talk after the show.
Woo!
Yeah, I'll explain. I happened into one for you, but we'll have to figure it out.
All right.
So.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Now he doesn't have to fuck off.
No.
He can fuck on.
You can fuck on now.
Okay. Well, fuck on.
Yeah. No, Luke and I were just in Ohio on Sunday. Where are you going in Ohio? Where?
Toledo.
Toledo. Holy. Wow.
Say hi to
Holy
Klinger.
Toledo. Yep.
Yeah.
Say hi to
And
Klinger.
I think
for
we're going
me.
to drive up to see Lake Huron afterwards and then come back.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool. But yeah, I think does that do it for the
I
concert
think
stuff?
that's it.
Yeah, I think that covered that.
We'll end up doing a whole show just talking
Easily.
about that.
Yeah.
Easy,
But,
yeah.
what do you want to move on to? Anything?
Wanna
Somebody
do
want to?
movies?
Yeah, let's do movies.
Jesus Christ.
All right, let's do that. They love it when I do that. It's like, Larry, make an ass out of yourself again. Okay. Okay. All right, yeah.
Start with Matt this time?
Matthew, you
Go
start.
backwards.
You know what? This summer, I didn't really see a whole lot of stuff. The movies are the thing that I'm really lacking, on my list.
Same here.
I have not been to a movie theater since the world opened back up again, which is strange because my wife and I love seeing movies on the big screen. Love it. And especially with the Marvel stuff, we try and go in the first 2-3 weeks that something opens up, and we just didn't have the chance to this year. We did do the drive-in. We did the 49er drive-in over in Chesterton.
Oh, that's fun.
Where we saw Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah, that's one of the movies I saw this summer.
We were supposed to see it together, and I completely spaced that we were going to do a Geeking Poetic thing, and I blew you guys off. It was a dick move. It was a dick move.
Yeah.
And that one, and it's been out enough that I feel like if we talk about it, I'm not spoiling anything by it.
You're
but
okay with that.
I was disappointed by it because I felt like it was two different movies that were happening within one. You had the younger generation of the Chris Pratt and the Dallas Howard continuing the storyline of the cloned kid and Blue and how that's going, and then you had the reintroduction of Ellie Sadler and Alan Grant, and there's that subplot in there that there are these giant locusts that have evolved from the dinosaur DNA, and they're trying to figure out why these locusts are attacking. You find out that it's Biosyn, who is the rival to InGen, that's creating these things. But it felt like that could have been its own separate movie. And I would have happily watched that separate movie of the evolution of what happens to the world after dinosaurs are on the planet. While I liked seeing all of them on screen together, I would have preferred it if they were two separate movies. I felt like they tried to jam them in together.
I could kind of see that. You saw this too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. It didn't bother me as much, but now that you explain it that way, I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. It's kind of like how I always felt about Dark Knight, that I was like, they didn't have to cram all of that into one Batman movie. Like, we just needed the Joker story. We didn't need to then cram in the whole.
Yeah, Dark Knight could have ended the minute that Harvey Dent. He wakes up in the hospital.
Forget all the
next movie.
Harvey Dent stuff. Like, so I guess I get that. I can see how it was a lot to cram into one movie. Fair enough. I still really enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of good suspense in there where you're like, oh shit, like, how are they going to get out of this? I mean, they're
going to.
Yeah, well, but you never know. That was the fun part too, is them being like, okay, this is the last one. I was just like, oh, like, is somebody gonna bite the dust here and everything? But
one of the things I liked about it is they introduced some of the feathered dinosaurs.
Yes.
And my son, my 6-year-old, knows more about dinosaurs than I will ever forget.
As a proper 6-year-old.
Yes. But he knows all about the feathered dinosaurs and how they're evolving. He loves the Giganotosaurus. Like, that was his thing. When the Giganotosaurus at the end gets killed by Rexy, he was just devastated because that's his new favorite dinosaur.
Oh.
So yeah, but it was really cool. Other movies, like I said, the Marvel stuff, we finally got around to seeing Doctor Strange and Thor.
I've not seen them.
I saw Doctor Strange. This is the one movie I saw in the theater this summer.
Disney Plus is really nice. Like, it's nice that, like, even if you miss that, you give it like 2 or 3 months and you're going to see it right there. So those were kind of the three. Like I said, my movie list this summer, I didn't really get out to see a whole lot. So
yeah, It's so weird, man. I know I've talked about it on here before, and even to you guys individually. I don't know what's going on with me in that I've had opportunity to catch up on a lot of these things, like the new Marvel stuff and everything. And for me, it's a combination of I haven't really been that enthused. I'm not one of these. There's so many people right now that are just like hating on Marvel, that are just like anti-Marvel, anti-MCU. I'm not that. But I just don't have the enthusiasm. Like, I don't have the drive like I did when we were building up to Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I can't wait to see Captain Marvel. I can't wait to see Doctor Strange. I can't wait. All that. It's like these new ones are coming out, and I'm just sort of like, and then, what I'm finding out about them and the things that have been set up for it, I'm just like, I don't know.
I was actually talking to my wife about this, and this kind of ties into some of the TV shows a little bit too. I feel like with that first phase of Marvel leading up to Thanos, everything was I don't want to say reality based, but you had Iron Man. It was a suit that he created. You had Captain America. It was a serum that was injected into him that gave him his powers. Same thing with Hulk. It was the radioactive aspect. Spider-Man, same thing. Thor was an alien from another world. Okay, a little iffy, but aliens. Okay, cool. I'm on board with that. And it seems like with everything in this next generation of it, between the 10 rings and all this stuff, it's dragons and it's mysticism, and now we have vampires and we have all of this stuff. With Eternals, you've got these people who've been around forever, and there's a magic that's coming through. Like it's so mystical. I think that's what's turning me off of it is the mysticism of it.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, Eternals was the one that it was the first time. Like I can't even say like, oh, I didn't like Eternals. It's not a matter of I didn't like it. I wasn't that interested.
I walked away with meh. Okay.
It was fine. But it didn't feel at all like it had anything to fucking do with Marvel, and again, I get it. It's an origin movie. It's going to have to set things up. I get that those characters are going to probably play into it more later if they get into some Kang and Secret Wars kind of storyline thing that we're pretty obviously being set up for. I get that, but it just lost me. Shang-Chi I loved. I thought that was great. And that's the fucking weird thing about it for me is that it's like, in terms of like when you ask me what my favorite comics are and the ones I grew up with, it was Shang-Chi and the Master Kung Fu. It was Moon Knight. I loved Moon Knight, Like there's so much, Doctor Strange, love Doctor Strange, but there's just something about what they're doing with these and where they're going with them that I'm just like, I want to see them. Mm-hmm. I do want to see them. I'm hoping that I'll probably enjoy it to some degree, but I'm just sort of, I'm losing interest in it. And Thor, you and I talked about this not too long ago, and you should bring up, you had an interesting theory thing that had to do with Thor. Mm-hmm. Thor kind of lost me a bit with Ragnarok, and then now with like Love and Thunder, where I'm like I have no problem, because I mean it's in the comics and everything too. I have no problem with the idea of the female Thor. I think that's fucking awesome, actually. But it just the goofiness of the way they're putting all across and the way it went with Ragnarok, it was too goofy. Like Thor's always had humor, but then they just went super like kooky, like oh my god. But then you brought up a really interesting theory about that.
So. And have you seen Love and Thunder yet?
No.
Okay, so I won't talk too much about it.
Okay.
But in Ragnarok, so we have Thor and we have Dark World, and they're very serious. It's what's his name that directed them.
Waikiki?
No. That was who came later.
No, the dude, Shakespearean guy. Spacing on his name.
I can't think of it either, but I know. Yeah, it was a little bit still like, especially Dark World. It had a darker edge to it.
Yes. Hey Joe, who's the guy I'm thinking of that directed?
No, Taika did.
See, that's what I thought.
Okay, Taika did the second two, but
Ragnarok,
the first one,
right?
Kenneth Branagh. Thank you, Joe.
Thank
you. So Kenneth Branagh, he brought that seriousness, that Shakespearean aspect to Thor, which I appreciated because he's this old world god, and it made sense. So the article that I was reading was, with Ragnarok being such a departure, what's interesting about Ragnarok, at the very beginning, Thor is talking about it, and he's swinging, and he's like, here I am in this cage. You may wonder how I got here.
Right.
If you take it from that point of view, the entire movie of Ragnarok is told from Thor's perspective and his inner monologue, which makes it a little bit more goofy, because that's kind of how he sees himself.
Sure.
And it's that I kind of like when he, like falls over a little bit, but kind of jumps himself up. But he's always making himself feel better about who he is and what's going on. And with Love and Thunder, it is Korg who is telling the story. It starts with him narrating it. So if you view it that way, that Love and Thunder, through Korg's filter and his point of view, it makes those movies a little bit more enjoyable, because it makes the goofiness make a little bit more sense. That
there's a reason for it.
Exactly.
And it wasn't just such a left turn.
Yes.
And as soon as you told me that, I mean, like, no pun intended, a lightning bolt went off, and I was just like, oh, that makes so much more sense now, because it just always bothered me that especially Ragnarok, it just always bothered me.
It was such a departure from the ones before, especially Dark World.
It was so much of a departure, and I was just like, this feels like I'm all for the humor. That's fine. but it went so silly that I was like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't fitting. All the Marvel movies have great humor in them, but this is feeling slapstick and just nonsensical. But now knowing that it's like, well, you're supposed to be looking at this story from, this is Thor's telling of the story and everything, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that explains why it would be more that way. Totally changes it for me. Real quick, I want to catch up on some of the things people are saying.
There's a lot.
Saying here, there's a whole bunch. Joe said, listed some movies. Maverick, yep, that I have not seen.
Haven't
Top
seen
Gun
it yet.
Maverick.
That's on my list.
And Tammy mentioned that she saw it against her will and ended up loving it. That's what I've heard from so many people is that movie.
It's really good.
I think maybe it was Paul. I forget. Somebody else I knew that was just like, not my kind of thing. Holy shit, what a great movie it was. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. That intrigues me, like, so I definitely want to see that Jurassic World.
Yeah, Joe saw Elvis. Elvis I wanted to see. I'm not the biggest Baz Luhrmann fan, but I've heard fantastic things about this particular one.
Yeah, I mean, it's music, biography, kind of, even if it's a little bit phony. It's kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody, like, oh, we'll just fudge sort of the facts, but I'm always interested in that stuff.
Nope, the Jordan Peele one. I haven't seen anything since the first one, so I really need to catch up on some Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Bullet Train, I've heard, like, if you want to
see that one.
I've heard if you wanted like a good action movie where you didn't really have to think too much, that was
perfect
I'm good
for you.
with that.
I'm good with that.
Just like Ambulance, that was one that came out over the summer too, and I happened to catch bits and pieces of that.
I didn't see that.
Michael Bay movie, like there's no real plot, a lot of action.
It's Michael Bay.
It's Michael Bay.
Yeah. And then lastly, Joe mentioned Moon Age Daydream, the Bowie movie, the biopic on Bowie and stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, of course I want to see that because it's Bowie and it's everything Bowie.
Heard you haven't already.
Everything Bowie is everything good in my world. So yeah, people mentioned Doctor Strange. Alex is saying about he thinks that the other issue with Marvel's first major arc very quickly pointed towards the ultimate confrontation with Thanos, but post Endgame, there's a ton teased, but no cohesive vision. Well, and that's my other...
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kind of what you guys were saying.
That's my other problem,
what
too.
What is this leading to?
Well, and we can even kind of use this to lead into TV and stuff, because I think we've covered most of the movies.
Well, the last thing
I have a ton of movies,
oh, do you? Oh, okay.
I haven't talked about any of my movies.
You haven't talked about anything.
Fuck me.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're wrapping up. We're just...
I didn't know nothing but watch movies, but...
I didn't mean to... I thought you didn't have any more to talk about,
the last
by
thing
all means.
I want to say about Marvel before we move on from it is... The weird thing to me, like living on Earth at this point, how does everybody on that planet not have PTSD of some kind?
Right.
Like at any given time, there's an alien that's coming through a wormhole like Doctor Strange. There's some huge statue that's rising up from the sea from no reason. Like there's, this big eternal that is suddenly talking to you from space. Like I wouldn't frickin' do anything at that point. I'm like, I'm quitting my job. I'm hanging with my kids because I don't know when the next like weird...
and that
thing is going to happen to take my life.
And while it was still kind of phony baloney comic bullshit and everything, at least in the original, what I'll call the Infinity War era, we did have human reaction. We did have the way they reacted to everything, from the way they reacted to the snap to prior to that with the Sokovia Accords and saying no, all these superpowered beings that are doing all this shit now, like they have to be held accountable because we're paying for it and we're all shell shocked from it. And I mean, it's still a very tame version of how it would actually be, but it still at least showed some accountability,
some repercussion
and
from
repercussion.
Everything. Yeah, like Vulture in the second Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
There was some repercussion on that.
Yeah.
So that was just the last thing I wanted to say. Like, as I'm watching all these Marvel movies, I'm like, what the fuck else can we throw at Earthlings, for Christ's sake?
Well, and more my point, too, about what I was saying about transition. We don't have to go into TV just yet, but my point is I'm going to touch again on Marvel and some of this stuff once we discuss TV, because
for sure
there's TV Marvel stuff, too. So,
Megan, what movies did you see this summer?
Lord,
yes,
I saw
do tell.
So many. Again, the only one I saw in the theaters is Doctor Strange. I went with some friends, and that was definitely strange. That was a fucked up movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was so bizarre. I was like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
I still can't even process it.
But like watching it, you're like, this is a total Sam Raimi movie. This is like, again, we've talked about this several times. I love the Evil Dead trilogy.
Right.
I love Army of Darkness. And so much of Doctor Strange had Army of Darkness aspects in it because it was Sam Raimi. So I loved it.
That makes sense. I haven't seen it yet. So
I don't feel the same.
Oh, no.
I didn't care for it.
Oh.
I'm like, this is really...
The middle section cameo with all of the characters. Yeah. Loved that.
Yeah, now that I know I'll love, but Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, who thinks of this stuff? This is so messed
Sam
up
Raimi.
everywhere. Yeah, apparently.
Evil Dead.
All right, so let me see. Let me go to my list here. I got it all at the bottom. So I had COVID in June, and then I had a cold again in August. So I had a lot of time to watch movies on TV. And I actually found some of my favorite movies this summer that came out. I was like, I really love all these movies.
Okay.
So I saw Uncharted.
Love that.
Yeah, with Tom Holland. Yeah. That was so fucking good.
I'm familiar with the video games, but like I know it's like Lara Croft and Tomb Raider-esque.
Basically.
That movie was so well done. Yeah. I loved every aspect
like
of it.
Hidden treasure, on a hunt. I'm in.
Double Crossings.
Yeah. It was perfect. I loved that movie. I saw the movie Turning Red. That was super cute.
You know what? That was on my list too that I wanted to talk about. I want to hear your take on it because I'm yes. Okay.
Yeah. What movie is this? I don't know.
It's a Disney
cartoon,
Pixar movie.
Yeah, where she has to hold in her anger and everything like that. And if she doesn't, she turns into this big giant red panda.
Oh,
like Matt.
Okay. I remember the commercial for that.
So it was just so cute of her trying to hide this from her parents, and then her mom freaking out and her parents freaking out because they're trying to hide her ancestry.
Yes, she's
It's
of Asian
basically all the
descent,
women
and it's
in
very,
her,
prim
in
and
her
proper and know
Right.
your place.
family do this.
Gotcha.
And so she just is a kind of a journey to find herself and accept this is what she is.
But the thing that I liked about it was it's a young girl coming of age, and she turns red. She turns into this panda when she has her first period. And it's a Disney movie that addresses having a period. Her mom is trying to give her tampons and all this stuff. It's usually a taboo subject that is not touched in movies in general, but let alone kids' movies. And the fact that Disney approached it in such a way, I thought was really interesting because I have never seen an approach like that in a movie from them before.
Right.
It was really cool.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Let's see. I watched the Chip and Dale movie a couple
That's
times.
cute.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. So that's like top of my favorite.
Well, you
TV
are
movies.
a Disney kid.
Did you see The Lost
Yeah.
City this summer?
I've seen that movie like 20 times. Yeah. My favorite fucking movie
It was
summer.
like I wasn't sure what to expect walking into that, and the Brad
Loved
Pitt
it.
portion of it, like, oh my god, it was
Which
great.
one is this?
It's Brad Pitt, Sandra Bullock, and
Daniel
The Romancing
Radcliffe
of the Stone.
and,
yes,
Channing
Romancing
Tatum.
the Stone. Exact remake,
Yes,
basically.
remake of Romancing the Stone.
Okay.
Fucking love it.
Yes. Oh, Daniel Radcliffe to me has made so many interesting choices since the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he's just kind of gone off the rails and done whatever he's wanted to do. And this one, to see him play a baddie was really cool. I enjoyed that.
So much fun. I loved everything about this movie. It was corny. It was cheesy.
It's just like you.
She had this kick-ass sequin jumpsuit thing on I really want.
I'm going to get punched in.
Thank you, Joe. Lost City's awesome. Yeah, I literally have probably seen that 20 times now.
I would like to see it. I just, my knee-jerk reaction when I saw it was just kind of like, because I love Romancing the Stone. That was one of my
totally
favorites.
worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
My knee-jerk was just sort of like, this is going to be a fucking rip-off of Romancing the Stone. You know?
And Channing Tatum was just great, like playing that like
Super
dorky,
cute.
hunky guy, like just wanting.
But he was so caring and endearing and stuff like that. Here, I bought your shoes. He's like, they're fucking heels. What am I going to do with these in the mountains? He's like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
It was so cute. I saw Death on the Nile.
How was that?
I
I
watched
loved it with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
What's her name? Gal
Gadot.
Gal Gadot.
I really
Branagh.
enjoyed that.
Kenneth Branagh, yeah.
Bringing it back around.
Um,
And was that a direct sequel to Murder on the Orient Express?
Yes, pretty much.
I mean, I know it's the same character of what's his
Poirot.
name.
Yeah, and it's Kenneth Branagh doing it,
Yeah.
but it's, so it is a sequel.
Okay.
yeah, I have not seen that one yet.
It's really good. Yeah.
I need to see it.
You
Yes,
do.
I really want to see that. But this one, there's the mystery of who done it.
Who done it?
Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you're
And
big
put
on the murder mystery
The
thing.
Egypt and the Nile. I'm in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's perfect for me. So I really enjoyed that one.
There's another one on your list that when you read it, I want to ask you about.
Okay. I think it's my last one. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
That's the one I want to ask you about.
Yes. So it was so silly. I really enjoyed it though, with Nick Cage and stuff like that, because he plays himself, Nick Cage. And,
But does he play himself like over the top?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
yeah, because he's like making a comeback. He's like, but I never really went anywhere. And Neil Patrick Harris plays his agent in it, and so he's always great. And the Mandalorian dude.
Oh, yeah.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. Yeah.
He's in it, and he's like this rich dude, and it's like, is he the mob? Is he not the mob? Now the family's been brought into it because, of course, he's estranged from his family, and he's having to like, well, I need money, and I'm not getting these movies, so let me just go do this dude's birthday party, whoever the fuck he is, and it's craziness. There's kidnappings, and
sounds like the plot to Oscar.
it's awesome. Shut up. That's why I like it. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. So fuck you, man. So yeah,
Wow.
I know. I actually
You're bringing it back to Oscar, are you really?
Yeah, goddamn
Wow.
man.
Oh.
Take this ball and throw it at you. But no,
Take
it's
this
silly.
ball
Don't
and
take it
shove
too
it.
seriously. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I saw all of Groot's little short movies.
Oh, all the
Yeah.
Groot
Of him
movies. I
taking a
watched.
bath.
And those are
stuff like
technically
that.
that's
They're so
technically TV. Are you transitioning
Is
this? It is, yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's transition TV.
Yeah, no,
then,
I
'cause
watched
think
those
that's
too.
all my
Those are really
movies, so,
cool.
yeah.
I saw a couple of them.
Yeah, the Groot shorts were cute, and then Disney also did a couple of shorts with before Ed Asner passed. They did those with Doug. They were Doug Days from Up,
Oh,
and those
okay.
are really cute
Are
too. Yeah,
they?
so Disney's been doing some fun stuff with their shorts.
Yeah,
I like the
I love
Forky
shorts.
ones
Yes.
because I love Forky. I love Forky whenever Forky gets like surprised, excited, he's like, oh, and his arms just go, poof, and they just drop down.
I haven't seen that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen? Do you know Forky? Do you know of him
Is
from
it
Toy
Toy Story
Story
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch the fourth one because I felt like the third one wrapped so well. I didn't.
You're not okay. You're not completely off base with that, but I think it's still worth seeing.
It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I haven't there's been so many other things on the list. I'll get to it when I get to it. And especially, having a 6-year-old, he's going to watch it eventually. I'll be able to see it. But
Forky is so my humor.
Yeah.
Because just the stuff he did. Because Forky's got like this existential thing where because he's made out of trash.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he's just like a spork with like the wire brush, you know, arms and all this stuff. So his whole thing is that he feels that he belongs in the trash. So he's constantly trying to throw himself away, and they're trying. Like Woody's trying, no, you need to stay with us because the little girl, she's like she loves you and everything, and he's just like every time he'll be bopping along, and all of a sudden he sees garbage, he's like trash, and he's got to go throw himself.
So you're telling
in the
me you
trash.
associate with, even though everybody loves you want to throw yourself in the trash? That's not.
Well, yeah.
Get out of town.
But he's just so funny about it. And there's one part when they're trying to find Bo Peep and everything, and they're yelling out Bo. He doesn't even know why they're because they're going Bo, and so he just starts yelling out Bo, 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 and everybody's ignoring him, even though he's just walking around bouncing around going Bo, 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 Bo. I think it's funny. anyway, yeah. So yeah, if you get a chance, get the kids and watch Toy Story 4, and then watch
And then
the
report
Forky
back.
shorts.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, let's move on to TV then.
All right, what else is on your TV list?
It's funny. I have not watched any new TV other than
Really?
those shorts. No,
Wow, really?
no.
Man.
I didn't watch any TV.
Man.
I haven't watched.
I've been
a
watching
ton.
old TV, not new TV.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't watched too much stuff. Well, why don't we go with you, Matt?
Okay. Yeah, we watched a lot of TV this summer.
Okay. Oh, I see the one at the top of your list. That's one I
Yes.
so have to get caught up on.
So
me
Lock and
too.
Key, we watched the third season of that one.
I haven't even finished the second season.
Oh my God, no, it's a 3-season and done show. So the nice thing is it doesn't keep going on and on and on and on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is it?
Yeah, so it wraps.
Oh.
It wraps really well. So Lock and Key was a comic that was created by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son,
Yes.
going by Nom de Plume.
Yeah.
But they turned it into a TV show, and it's this family, the Locke family, and they find out that they have this house called Key House, that they find all of these magical, mystical keys throughout the house, and they do all these different things, but it unlocks a portal to a different world, and there's a big bad that comes through, and they have to fight the big bad in the first season, and then the big bad kind of comes back in the second season, and then the third season transitions to an even bigger bad that
Really?
that the first big bad kind of doesn't answer to, but kind of rules the realm out there.
Okay, yes, I'm so far behind on this.
Yeah,
So, okay.
but no, it was so well done.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. If you're going to love it. So we watched that. I'm going to save all the Marvel stuff because I know we want to talk about that a little bit more. there was the new season of The Orville that came out on Hulu.
I've never watched one episode of The Orville.
The first, okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more in depth about The Orville because I'm a huge fan of it.
Okay.
And I originally loved it because I love The Next Generation, Star Trek.
Yeah.
And the first couple of seasons, the first 2 seasons of The Orville tried to do that, but it was like Family Guy meets The Next Generation. And I really hated some of that stupid humor that they were injecting into it.
Oh, boy.
And at
That
first I
doesn't
thought it
sound
was
like
because...
Meg's kind of thing.
No, and at first I thought it was because it was Seth MacFarlane and that's just what he does. And what I found out after the fact is there was such a hiatus between season 2 and then season 3 where it moved from Fox over to Hulu. Hulu gave Seth MacFarlane much more creative control over his show. And Fox, for the most part, for the first 2 seasons, wanted that Family Guy meets Star Trek The Next Generation, where they forced this humor on you, and it was just too much. And then in the 3rd season, because Seth had more control over it, it really is the next generation of the next generation, like the ship, the storylines, the transitions. Like even though there's no commercials on Hulu, it still does that fade to black that like Star Trek would do for the commercials and things like that. And all of the characters on them are very much modeled after a specific Star Trek Next Generation character, but it's done so very well. But the cool thing is like Alex Kurtzman, who did a lot of the writing for Next Generation, and 2 or 3 of the other writers that were on TNG came over and are now working on The Orville. So it's got some of that same feel to it, where it's almost like a kindred sister to it. It's amazing.
So I need to skip the first 2 seasons and go straight to the 3rd?
Yeah, there's a couple episodes in season 2 that you do need to watch that are very relevant to what's happening in season 3, but you really can skip most of it.
Or maybe just read up on it.
Yeah, you can wiki some of the episodes and just get caught up on it.
Family Guy. Yeah, she can't stand it. Well, and that was the same. I don't hate Family Guy, but Seth MacFarlane, some of his humor and stuff like that, even just his face to a certain degree, like irritates me at times. But I think he's extremely creative and kind of brilliant and everything. But it's just interesting because, all of a sudden at some point, I started seeing in fandom and stuff, like in various groups, fan groups and forums and things, I started seeing more people talking about the Orville and talking in a way, in a serious way about it, where they're just like, oh, it's so great. It's one of blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, really, the Goofy show? Because that's what I associate. Anything I saw was when it was first coming out, and I saw teasers and trailers and things, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't need to see that.
Yeah, the first 6 episodes, the majority of the first season really was trying to find its footing. Yeah, but it really has become a great homage to it rather than poking fun at. And there's like 3 episodes left in the season, and we want to watch them, but they're all like an hour and a half each. And I'm like, I don't have the time to invest an hour and a half, with the things and whatnot. What's going on the?
Yeah, let's real quick before we. I don't mean to cut you off. No. Well, just so we don't let it get too far away from us.
Joe, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and She-Hulk. I want to get into those in a minute.
Yeah, Luke said he didn't. Just like me, he didn't know there was a 3rd season of Lock and Key out. Yeah, Tammy mentioned Ghosts.
I want to check that out. That looks real funny.
I've seen the commercials for that, and it looks kind of interesting. That's a CBS show, which normally I don't like CBS shows, but
we don't have broadcast, so I'm so behind on what's coming up on the major 3 or 4. Right. So I need to look into that one.
And then Alex was saying one he's watched a lot, currently rewatching Archer.
Oh, nice.
Nice. That's a good show. I do like that one.
Let's see what else.
Danger's out. But
obviously Stranger Things season 4.
I have
rocked
not
through
seen
that. Oh my gosh. They're setting it up perfectly. I love they've moved out of Hawkins, Indiana.
Right.
And things are much, much bigger. Since you haven't seen it, I don't want to talk too much to it.
No, don't tell me too much. I mean, I know general gists of things and everything. Me, I'm the spoiler, so I kind of know, but I don't know too much specifics.
No, that was really awesome. It was worth the wait on that.
Okay. I'm that's one I am. Again, I'm eager to see these, but for some reason I haven't had the motivation. Like I have to be, especially something like Stranger Things. Like I got to be in that fucking Stranger Things zone, man, because I'm just gonna watch it straight through.
Yeah, as you should. Yeah. I totally rocked through the new season of What We Do in the Shadows. That show is just absolutely amazing. Like it's so well written and so great.
It's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen.
It really is, and I've never seen the movie. Funny. I need to go back and watch the movie now because I love the series so much. But the one that I've most recently started watching that I'm really surprised by, it was a slow roll for the first episode, is called Night Sky.
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
And it's J.K. Simmons as the husband and Sissy Spacek as his wife.
Oh, that's cool.
And basically, what you find out in the very first episode is that they have this portal underneath their shed in the backyard that transports them to an alien world. And this alien world, once this transportation happens, it's like a wormhole, and they end up in this like 2-room alien condo, for lack of a better word, with this huge, absolutely huge window that overlooks this alien planet, like double suns, mountains. You'll see storms rolling through, and they allude to the fact that they want to try and leave, but J.K. Simmons says, you know what happened when we put the mice outside the door? They died right away. We won't survive out there.
Right.
So that's all that you know about it. And then at the end of the very first episode, Sissy Spacek goes into this other world by herself, and there's a strange guy who's laying in there who is almost dead, and it cuts to black. And you're like, there's only one way in and out of here. How in the hell did he get into this alien world? And he's a regular human guy. The second episode turns into this huge, like, multi-country espionage kind of thing that you find out that there is a woman who is living in the Gobi Desert or something like that. And there is a chapel that's on their property. And you find out there's another one of these places, another one of these wormholes underneath. And then suddenly this Jesuit priest shows up out of nowhere that talks about her family being the protectors of this this chapel. And then, you find out that the guy who came through the wormhole, he's up to some nefarious stuff. And it's like all of these things, like it's such a slow roll of a drama the first episode. And then suddenly second and third episodes, it's like shooting all over the world. And you're like, what the hell is going on? That it's intriguing enough. Like usually I can watch a show and kind of figure out where it's going to go. This one, I have no idea. And I absolutely love it because it's so written frenetically. You don't know what's going on. It's great. So there's that.
Interesting. Okay.
And then the other new show that I've really gotten into is called Little Devil. It's on FX.
Okay.
It's an animated show. It's basically this girl who was born, she's the Antichrist. Her father is the devil, played by Danny DeVito.
Oh,
and her mom was this slutty Wiccan in her youth, who's played by Audrey Plaza. And they have sex. They have this girl who is played by Danny DeVito's daughter. When she turns 13, and periods are apparently the thing now. When she has her first period, the releasing of her blood lets the devil find her. So this entire show, it's almost like a Bob's Burger animated type series, but this girl is trying to find her place, splitting time between her dad in hell and then her mom, who is this Wiccan who is fighting all of these demons and spirits and things who keep trying to steal the Antichrist to gain her powers and things like that. But it's incredibly like R-rated. Language is horrible. At one point, like Audrey Plaza, the mom character, she has to like strip down completely naked to do some sort of a seance thing. And they're showing like everything completely drawn out, full frontal nudity and things like that. It's like a full adult cartoon, but the humor is so over the line. It's really awesome. Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Yeah, Luke said Night Sky was great. He's waiting for the next season. Alex mentions Final Space, an animated series. It's kind of like the Orville. Early episodes set it up as trying to be Futurama what Family Guy was to The Simpsons, but very quickly it became a pretty damn epic space opera in its own right.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. He also mentioned Little Devil is awesome too.
And then, all the Disney and the Marvel stuff, like we've kept up on all the TV shows for Obi-Wan,
and see, I haven't watched anything.
Moon Knight, She-Hulk.
I haven't seen Moon Knight, haven't seen She-Hulk, haven't seen Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel's the only one I haven't.
Yeah.
We kind of glossed over that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some teaser things of it that I'm like, oh, it's interesting. I'll watch it. I'm going to watch it at some point. But again, all of those, they just haven't, I don't know, there's just something about it. And here's where I wanted to kind of come back around when I was accidentally cutting you off. I'm sorry about that. Is that to Alex's point that he made earlier when he was saying about having more of a concise direction with the Infinity War storyline compared to now. The problem I have is that when the first Marvel series all came out, so you're talking WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, all that stuff, Loki. Those were all in their own, even though they were separate, they were all in their own way, felt like they were building to something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was something that was kind of going on there. There was some interesting threads there that were picking up off of the shards left from the Endgame situation and building into something new. And I got really, WandaVision, I've actually grown to like that better than I did when we first reviewed it. I like it a lot better now. WandaVision was okay. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was like, oh, okay. Loki, I was like, this is fucking great. Like it was getting, What If, I thought was great. Like I really liked all those. And then everything that's come out since then, it's like, with the exception of having the Wanda thing in Multiverse of Madness, everything else, Shang-Chi, Eternals, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, all that, it feels like it's all its own things. It's all kind of, and I'm sure it's going to come back around.
Sure.
But right now, it's like there's too many other directions, and I was so invested in what they set up in 2021 with those initial Marvel series that I'm like, man, I can't, check out She-Hulk. It's like, I don't fucking care about She-Hulk. What the fuck is going on with Loki? Yeah. What the hell is happening with Falcon and Winter Soldier? And now the next thing is they've announced the Thunderbolts is coming out. And you see that Winter Soldier, that Bucky's going to be in it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I wanted more of those two together and let's complete more of their story.
Give me a buddy cop with them. Yeah, give me more of that.
There was just so much good stuff they set up with that, with all those series, that I was hoping that by now, getting up to now, late 2022, going into 2023, it's like, oh, okay, we're going to start getting there. And instead it's like they just keep throwing check out this new one and this new story and this new story and this new story. And I'm like, I really want more of the old story. Yeah. And I felt like they did a better job of every time they introduced a new character, a new story in the old waves of Marvel stuff, they still figured out some little ways to weave it together as you went along so that you accepted
And
it.
This one isn't. It's branching out so much, it's hard to keep track of.
Exactly.
And that's kind of my problem with it. How I'm having such a hard time keeping up with it because there's so much of it. How I don't even know where to start to keep up with it at this point. Because I'm so far behind. Yeah. It's like, okay, I don't even know. Just wait.
And I think, like I was talking earlier, the thing that I'm not loving about this second phase of Marvel is that it's very ethereal. Even like I love Moon Knight, but one of the things I loved about Moon Knight was Oscar Isaac is one of those take it or leave it actors for me.
Okay.
He kind of feels like Jeremy Renner, like when Jeremy Renner, like in the early 2010s, where Jeremy Renner was in everything, and I feel like Oscar Isaac is kind of that now. He's in Star Wars, and this, he's in that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very excited to see him in Moon Knight. But once I watched that first episode, the way that he plays these two characters back to back, and there's a couple episodes in Moon Knight where he shifts like that, and to watch him play these, I have a newfound respect for him as an actor and the way that he is able to transition from one to another. And I really, really enjoyed his performance in it, which was great. But I know little to nothing about the character itself. But again, we're introducing the Egyptian lore and the god Ra. And like at one point in the series, the god Ra actually turns the sky back to how it was 3,000 years ago. And again, this is something that he's doing. So the rest of the world just watches this happen for no reason whatsoever. And like it was,
and you're
it
like,
was
how the fuck, yeah.
It was like my big beef in the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie when Ego makes the plants grow.
You're right.
And everything happens, and then they're right by the Dairy Queen, and everything, like, it shoves, and you never go back to Earth to explain, and nor would you, because Earth wouldn't know what's going on with that. But there's so many little things that are kind of thrown throughout that I don't think that I like. Suddenly we have vampires, and we have dragons, and we have, it's too much for me. I don't, it doesn't seem as grounded, and I think that's what bothers me the most.
Well, and Alex just kind of took the words out of my mouth before I even said them. He said it's becoming too comic booky. 16 storylines heading in different directions, but you still have to follow all of them to understand what's going on in the three you care about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. suspension of disbelief too, because I think that's part of the problem is, to your point of what you were just saying about, all these things happening and how are people not freaking out more about it? Well, here's what I think we need to kind of keep in mind is that the earth and the world and the reality that is happening in the Marvel movies is not ours.
Right.
It's supposed to be that there, the way that like our society and real life would maybe react to things, maybe they wouldn't, and that earth wouldn't react that way, because there have been various things that did happen throughout Earth's history and that makes some of these things still strange, still fucked up, but not to the same way it would be for us. We've never had, to our knowledge, an actual superhero.
Right.
We've never had any of these mystical things actually happen. Mm-hmm. Whereas then you watch these movies and they talk about, back in whatever, the 1600s, there were these actual guys that had 10 rings and could control the weather and could bring up dragons and all this stuff. And it's just like, oh yeah, dragons exist. You know what I mean? So I think there's some of that is part of the problem, is that we're looking at it with our real world knowledge, and we're watching these people going, well, this would be like if this was happening on our world, and it's not. It's happening on another world.
But I think that, to me, is the responsibility of the writers and directors in order to put that out there. Because, one of the other TV shows I loved this summer was The Boys, season 3.
Okay.
It was amazing. But the way that is written, it's so visceral and it's so bloody and gory at certain points. But at the same time, so they introduce Jensen Ackles, who plays Soldier Boy, who is essentially the Captain America of that universe.
Okay.
And they show these backstories of what happened in the 1980s with him and how he was known in the 1980s. They show him on Soul Train singing the rap part for Rapture, the Blondie song, in the 70s. They show what happened at certain points in the past and give me at least the adjustment for the people in that world to maybe not freak out about having these heroes do these specific things, because they're giving me enough of a backstory. And I feel like Marvel has not given me that.
No, there's just too much taking for granted that you're going to accept it and everything. Yeah, that's fair enough.
And then the last thing I'll say is what I really feel is everything that we're talking about is personified with She-Hulk. She-Hulk is a great series. You've got Bruce Banner at the beginning, and Jennifer Walters gets her powers from sharing some blood with Hulk, and they set it up everything. But there's one portion in the episode, like the very first episode, the reason that they get blood on each other is one of the what's the name of the ship, the shapeshifters, it's not the Krill. The Skrull. There's an alien ship that comes down right in front of Bruce's car that causes this accident. We haven't discussed that yet. We're like 7 episodes in, and he's like, I got to look into that. And I'm hoping at some point they talk about it, but they haven't. But the way that She-Hulk is written, it's very episodic. It's very sitcom-y, where there is not an end, no pun intended, but there's not an end game. There's not a big bad that you're following from one episode to the other. It's just these standalone little episodes of how she's just coping with these newfound superhero powers, which I appreciate, but it's not taking me anywhere. And that's what I'm having trouble just enjoying the show for what it is, because I want it to take me someplace.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm not hating. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, stupid She-Hulk. No, She-Hulk is one of my favorite comic books, was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Loved it. Loved the character. I loved when she became part of the Avengers in the 80s. Big fan of She-Hulk.
And we talk about it all the time. I love anything that breaks the fourth wall, and she does. Like this series does, just like the comics did. It was great.
Again, these are all things that I want to watch, but just like the things that I'm hearing about them and the vibe I'm getting, I'm like, this isn't taking me to where I want to go. Like, start tying some of this shit together. You've given us, like you said, too many loose ends. There's just so many, starting with WandaVision on to now. How many loose ends do we have at this point? We've got like 10 of them or something, or 12 loose Marvel ends.
And I don't know. To me, it doesn't feel as special as what it did before, when we had a movie like every year. We were like, oh, we got a Marvel movie coming up. This is a big deal. We got to go see it. Now we have a new TV show every 3 months.
The anticipation's gone.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. I was like, okay, and it's not going anywhere. So what do I
Well,
care?
and I think that's even more to the point. I think if all of these things were having a little bit more of an immediate connection there and continuity, then I'd be more invested in it, just like you would be anything, any kind of series or show. Like, but it's just, there's just too many. That's just too many loose ends. It's like, so I just haven't had the eagerness to like jump into any of this stuff.
What's weird though,
Yeah.
okay, so the opposite end of that, have you guys had the chance to check out Sandman?
No, and I've heard that's great.
It's an amazing adaptation of the Neil Gaiman piece. But what's interesting about the way that Netflix has done Sandman is that there isn't this big bad payoff. It's basically like they do in the comics, where there's like a 3-issue arc and then they wrap it up. And then there's like a 3-issue arc and they wrap it up. So it's almost like over the course of these 9 episodes that you're watching with Sandman, you're getting 3 or 4 separate stories that are ending very quickly. There's no anticipation of, oh my God, what's going to happen? In what episode he literally finds the bad guy, takes him out. It's not like they have a battle and he runs away and how do we get him next time? He literally like
they don't
takes him
drag it out too long.
he doesn't drag it out at all. It's almost like the anticipation doesn't build up. But again, if you have the chance, you guys would both absolutely love Sandman. It was done incredibly
I've read the
well.
comics. I mean, you know, that comic was like at its peak back when I owned my comic book store. So I read Sandman and stuff like that. There was a couple of the different Vertigo comics I was really into, like Sandman, The Invisibles, which is one I'm really surprised they haven't brought into television or something. The Invisibles, I could definitely see that coming around at some point. But yeah, I mean, and then I know that you also we get into the Star Wars and stuff, because I haven't seen Andor yet, and I haven't seen Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan was all right. I wanted to like it because it's Obi-Wan, because it's, Ewan McGregor coming back and doing it.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But I'm on the fence with Star Wars in general. Like with Andor, that I'm really excited about, but I want to go back and I want to watch Rogue One again to kind of get the refresher of who he became.
Yeah, you would definitely need that, because I think you only saw it like once, right?
Yeah, it was enough.
But it was one of my favorite ones because, everybody dies at the end. Like, there's no happy ending.
She hates Rogue One.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favorites.
It's
because
great.
I don't care about anybody in there. They all die. What do I care?
Well, yeah, but they had to in order to get to where you were in episode 4. I mean, you had to. Anyway,
I know. I've been dealing with this for years. I know. Go ahead.
The thing that I'm excited about Andor with is I'm finally getting to know other characters within that universe. Okay,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan again, Boba Fett. It's great to see him again, but I know their story. Like this is a huge universe. Tell me stories of other things that are happening out there, which is why I want to hear about Andor. I want to know what's going on there.
Here's what because I started to watch Obi-Wan, and of course, again, I had to read like, okay, well, what I got to spoil it. I got to know, what is this about? Which is probably, in some of these cases, I admit I'm probably fucking myself up in the long run, because then I'm finding out and going, oh, okay.
I don't need to watch the rest of that.
I don't really need, because I got to be honest. While I know people, maybe some of you out there that are listening right now can argue differently. Again, without giving away too much, any spoilers or anything, I can't do too much because I haven't watched it. But, the Obi-Wan series deals with young Princess Leia and, them trying to come for her and get her, and Obi-Wan's brought out of his seclusion to come and rescue her and everything. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, we know what's going to happen with that because we fucking know.
Yeah.
I've seen Star Wars 500 million billion trillion times. I know Princess Leia lives. I know he lives. I'm like, I feel like kind of in a similar way what you were saying about with different characters, different stories. If this was an Obi-Wan story where we found out, just like the books, because I know they're not canon, but I've read tons of the Star Wars books that have been coming out since the 90s and everything, And there were books that had to deal with Obi-Wan, and there were other things that went on. And the cool thing about it is that in those stories there were characters and serious plot devices, plot points, characters in there that you were like, oh, what's going to happen to this? How is this going to turn up? Kind of like why I like Rebels, because by and large, with a couple of exceptions, most of the characters in Rebels were all new characters. You never heard of Hera Syndulla and Kanan Jarrus and all that kind of stuff. So there is a little bit of like, even though it's prequel, there's a little bit of like, well, I don't know what's going to happen to these people. Do they die? Is that why I didn't hear from them?
Yeah.
Or do they go into hiding? Or do they change? Do they turn to the dark side and they become somebody else, just like Anakin turned into Vader?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of that. So you go, oh, okay, I'm interested in this. But then I hear they're coming out with an Obi-Wan show where it's like Obi-Wan has to rescue young Princess Leia. And I'm like, well, we know he does.
Yep.
We fucking know he does. So, and I understand they're like, oh, but there's these other cool, there's third sister and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, cool, but it still isn't enough to make me like, oh, I'm really interested to see where this goes. Like, I would be so much more interested if we found out, like, make it something where Obi-Wan at one point, like, make it, sorry to be... but make it like a Last Temptation of Christ kind of thing, where it's like, where it's like, what if Jesus actually went off and got married and blah, 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 and then that actually turned out that was all just like a temptation by the devil. Like, what if we found out that Obi-Wan is a Jedi who's not supposed to have a family? What if we found out he had, like he did at some point when he was in seclusion, went off and something happened? Like, that's the kind of thing.
Give me something off there.
That's the kind of thing I've always wanted to know. Flesh that out more, not just... Well, here's old hermit Ben. He's got to go rescue one of those fucking Skywalker kids again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Have you seen it? Do you intend on seeing it?
I saw the first couple episodes and I haven't finished
Okay,
it.
because there's one plot point in the last episode that I want to talk about, but I don't want to spoil anything for you if you're planning on watching it.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, me either. Because there's things I don't even know.
But there were, Darth Vader is in it. And there are choices that are made between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan that they were written a specific way because they had to be written a specific way in order to have continuity with the movies that came out. But it just pissed me off because that was the only reason that those specific choices were made by those characters, was because they had to get them to where they needed to get to.
Not because it was the logical
thing. Exactly. And that's what bothered me most about Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I think that what I'm getting tired of is I'm getting tired of prequels. Mm-hmm. Like I'm at first I was down, that's what I said. Rebels is technically a prequel. It's fucking great. Love Rebels. Rogue One. I fucking love Rogue One.
That was one of my favorites.
It was technically a prequel story.
I love Solo. I love that movie.
Solo. We did. We both did.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the channel and everything years ago. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I don't need all of this fleshed out, and to your point, I feel like there's a big limitation on what they can do with it, because there is a point that they have to get to, and they have to keep in continuity with that, so they can't do as much stuff to really make it that interesting. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
But so Alex in the comics makes a great point that one of his favorite things is that Carrie Fisher would have absolutely loved the girl that played young Leia. Like, she was spot on for a young Leia. How that was written, how that girl acted it. Yeah, you could totally see her being that rebellious little kid.
And
awesome.
I'm all for that. I think that's great. And from what I heard, she did a great job and everything. So it's my favorite Star Wars character, played by one of my favorite actors of all time, Ewan McGregor. I'm going to watch this. But it's just another one of those ones that I have not had the enthusiasm towards. A, because I haven't been in the right headspace, and B, because what I found out about it, that I was just like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I don't, because of that, because of what the story is, Obi-Wan going to save Princess Leia as a kid, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't feel now that, like, oh, I got to see what happens.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I'm like, holy shit, I got to see how this plays out. I already know how it plays out. So it's one of those where I'm like, I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah.
As far as me, because do you have any TV shows to bring up?
No, I don't.
As far as me, I only have 2 TV shows that I really watched. Which one's kind of typical, one's not. That I watched this summer. One was Umbrella Academy.
See, and I haven't seen the 3rd season. I want to.
I'm behind too.
Yeah, so say nothing.
Yeah, I won't say anything about it other than it's one of those ones where I feel like it's more cohesive in a lot of ways than season 2 was.
I loved season 2.
No, I loved season 2. I haven't disliked any of it. But you know how season 2 went off on so many different, everybody had their own arc.
Yeah.
Right.
This one sort of brings it back a little bit more, and it shows just how fragmented they've become and how hard it is for them to, and now they really need to like work together, and it's just a mess for a bunch of different reasons. And especially as it's going on, it's getting to last year, like, where the fuck is this going to go? Like, how are they gonna? What are they gonna do? Yeah. And by the time it does get to the end, you're sort of just like, oh wow, okay, like what just happened, and what is it? And then it really does leave you just being like, because a lot of people were like, is that it? Is this the end? Are they doing a season 4? Because there's a little bit of a weird ambiguousness with it. But they've announced now, like, yes, we're doing a season 4, and that's going to be it. That's going to be the end. And I'm really glad about that, because I'm like, yeah, because if this ended this way, I could see how season 3 could be the end, but I don't think it's the end anybody would have wanted. That's all I'm going to tell you without telling you stuff.
Thank you.
So that's good. And then the only other thing, and this is a little getting into something that isn't fantasy and cartoon or anything like that, is I watched The Staircase, the series, The Staircase, that with who plays Mark Darcy and Bridget Jones. What's that?
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth, with him and oh my God, it's getting so late. I'm so brain fried. My actress that I love from United States of Terror.
Oh.
Yeah. It'll come to me. Joe, I need you here now to tell me
where
this.
You at, Joe?
The Sixth Sense chick?
No.
No.
Oh my gosh. I could picture her plain as day.
Yeah, why can't I think of her name? She's one of my favorites.
Tara?
But in any case, it's about the story of what is that Peterson, the guy that was convicted for murdering his wife by throwing her down the stairs and all that stuff over in, was it Virginia, West Virginia? I'm terrible with this. Like, I don't have any of my notes on this, but it was a very controversial story.
Toni Collette.
Toni Collette, that's it. Yes. So Colin Firth and Toni Collette.
The Sixth Sense chick.
Oh, is she in Sixth Sense? I can't remember.
She's a mom.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I didn't remember her being that. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, to me, she's Tara, United States of Terror, which is one of the greatest TV shows ever. But this is more a pick about a series that was retelling this true life, true crime story and stuff. But what's so interesting about this is, because I'm not normally like a true crime kind of guy, but I'm very picky about it. But what's so interesting about this is there were so many different theories, because to this day, they don't know, there's only so many people that would know what really happened, and the main one is dead, And there were so many different theories about how she died, like, because he claimed innocence and said, I didn't do it and all this stuff. There were these theories that there was an owl that was trapped in their house that might have attacked her when she was on the stairs and caused her to fall and all this stuff, because they did find like an owl feather in her hair and like there's all these different. And so on the show, throughout the series, it isn't like linear. There at certain points, all of a sudden they'll turn and they'll show you like, it's almost like the end of Clue. And here's how this could have happened. You know what I mean? So it shows you all these different theories. At one point it's taking the theme that like they were happily married and that there was no problems really and stuff. And then there's like other theories from certain family members where it's like, no, they fought about stuff. So they show all the different ways, and they show all the different ways she might have died. And it's really graphic. And the fact that I was so mad with the Emmys that Toni Collette did not get a fucking award for how she portrayed the wife in this and the acting that she did, it was incredible. And even just when you watch like the scenes of her, because she had to do it multiple different ways, or her dying at the bottom of these stairs, and you're watching it and you're like, there's like no cuts. Like, how did they do this? Like, I'm like, how did she not legitimately fuck herself up filming this. But like the way, I don't know how to explain it. You would just have to see it, and you're just going to be like, it's one of those things. I mean, I don't know. It's not even like a horror movie where you see people getting, you go, well, that's a horror. There's something so real, and especially since you know that this is a reenactment of what happened or what possibly happened. And the way they do it, there's no suspenseful music or whatever. It's like the house is quiet because it's like 2 a.m. or whatever. Like they don't add music and special effects. Like it's just so real. Like you're eavesdropping on this that you're like, oh my God, that's fucked up. I don't know how to explain it, but the husband, this character, the one that he was convicted and pronounced guilty, and then later he got off for it. They went back and found that there was all sorts of like inconsistencies, and the guy that was working for the prosecutor that was there was the blood splatter analysis and all this stuff that said, oh yeah, he did. Like that guy was a complete phony. Like he faked his whole resume and all this kind of stuff and had like no fucking expertise to be able to judge these blood splatters and stuff. So there was a mistrial with it, but he still went to jail for like years. And then he fell in love with one of the women that was documenting it, because there was a documentary that came out by these French film documentarians that came over here, found out about the case and said, we want to do a documentary about your court battle with this. So they filmed him leading up to the court. They filmed him once he was found guilty. They filmed him and the family after he was in jail. And through the process, he actually fell in love with, and one of the women that was working on the documentary, the French women, fell in love with him. And then that became like a whole controversy in and of itself, because then people were saying, well, how much of this documentary is skewing it in his favor because she was secret, in love with them. There's all sorts of twists and stuff in this. There's so much of it that almost feels like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but this is all fucking real. Like it's all a true story, although some of it is
embellished. Well,
not even embellished. It's theorized, because there's certain things that they don't know, so they show, but it's cool that they show all the different theories. They don't just pick one and go, well, this is the one we're going with, is that he killed her or that it was the owl, blah, blah. They're like, nope, we're going to show all the different ones and we'll let you decide what seems to make the most sense. And then there's a little twist at the very end. It would happen to do with him where like you think you kind of like, oh, okay, well, it was probably this. And then something happens and you're like, no, like it's really good for a true crime thing. It sucked me in because I'm not like, and there's so much true crime stuff. It's such a thing now. And I'm just like, it depresses me. It bums me out. I'm like, I don't need to hear about all these people that are being raped and murdered and dismembered and stuff constantly, so, but this one was good. So I recommend it.
Noted.
All right.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I should have known Jess was going to jump in on this because she's the one that told me about it. Yeah, Colin Firth's portrayal of Michael Peterson was chilling, even his weird little noises. Yeah, Colin Firth he and Toni Collette, their acting was fabulous. I was stumped on that one. My brain is fried too. Yeah.
For Toni Collette.
Yeah. It was one of the first of its kind of documentary. They had an unprecedented accident to the defense's real-time behind-the-scenes work. They even the documentary, because I've gone back and watched that stuff now, is fascinating. Like,
yeah, I've seen the documentary.
Okay. It ended up being something like an 8-part series because they ended up adding new episodes of the documentary as more things happened. Yeah, they did that. They were only going to do the one documentary. And then as new developments were happening, they were like, okay, well, let's go back and film. And they kept adding more stuff to the documentary. And then now they've made this TV series that's based on all of that and stuff. So anyway.
Nice.
It was really good, yes. So if you're into that sort of thing, into the more real life true crime kind of stuff, then I definitely recommend that. But what else do we got, guys? I know there's other stuff that we got to talk about. We've got...
What do you got, Matt?
Oh, yeah, Beavis and Butthead. I watched that one on Paramount. Yeah, good one, Joe. Yeah, Beavis and Butthead Save the Universe came out.
God.
Yeah, it was what you'd expect it to be. It's Beavis and Butthead.
I have a love-hate with Beavis and Butthead. There's Beavis and Butthead stuff that I thought was really funny, but then there's a lot of stuff about Beavis and Butthead that irritated me, especially at the time. But I'm going to save that for another.
That's a whole nother rant.
We're going to talk about that when we start up our music channel thing and we start talking. Did I just spoil that?
No.
Yeah, that we've talked about it before in the squad. Like, we want to do more music stuff, and should we make a separate channel, or should we just integrate it into Geeking Poetic channel? And we've decided that we're going to
spin it off.
Yeah,
pun intended.
We're going to do a little spin. Yeah, we're going to spin it off into its own separate thing, but it's still going to all be under the umbrella here, and we'll still be posting in the squad. But
because there's so much music stuff to cover, like it's tough.
Yeah.
So I think, making its own separate entity makes sense.
Yeah, I did those couple, we've done a couple of things and stuff where I did the Rock Hall debate thing and my top 5 records of 73. And those were cool, like dipping my toe into the water. But I really want to get you guys more involved and have it really be a full-on Geeking Poetic music show.
I think it's awesome. I'm excited about it. But speaking of music, so that was one of the other things this summer. So Larry and I play in a cover band called Underground Prophets, and we do a lot of like 80s music, sing-along stuff, one-hit wonders and things. But this summer, we've had more festival gigs this past summer than we have in most years past. We did some 4th of July fests. One of the towns around here had their 75th anniversary for the Parks Department. We played that. Yeah. There's the Rock and Rail Fest. We played Pierogi Fest. So it felt like every other weekend we were doing some sort of a festival gig with the band, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, we got one coming up this weekend. This weekend we've got another Oktoberfest coming up.
But for those that I'm sure a lot of you do know, but for those of you that are watching or listening, especially if you're not from around here and you don't know, that Matthew over here for the last 25 years, right? Mm-hmm. 25 years was a well-known local personality known as Mr. Pierogi.
Mr. Pierogi. Yeah, so I grew up in Whiting, Indiana.
Yeah.
And about 27 years ago, they started a heritage festival called the Pierogi Fest. And in the town, there were a lot of Eastern European people, Polish, Slovak, Czechoslovakian, Lithuanian. And they just created this. You've got the pictures to show. Yeah. This is awesome. And they needed a mascot for it. So they asked me 25 years ago. I knew the woman who was running the chamber at the time, and they needed somebody to dress up as a giant pierogi. So if you're watching the screen, I'm sure Larry's
I'll pull
going to
it
pop
up here in a second. Yeah.
He's big, goofy. He's this pierogi with a big giant chef's hat. So for the last 25 years, in the last weekend in July, I have thrown on this suit and walked around the city of Whiting for 3 days and just kind of been the MC for the Pierogi Festival. And this was my last year doing it. It was my 25th year. It was like the perfect time to sign off and just kind of goof off and have some fun with it. But he's been a fantastic character to play. We've done gigs, the band Underground Prophets. We played as Mr. Pierogi and the Doughboys.
Yeah.
And just had fun with it. So that was really cool. The Pierogi Festival for me has been such a highlight of my life for more than half of it. And I love that picture. Love that picture. So to kind of say goodbye to this character that I've been playing for 25 years was incredibly bittersweet. I'm getting older. I want to celebrate the fest with my kids and have fun with it.
It makes sense.
But yeah, it was bittersweet. It was a lot of fun. But that was kind of one of the highlights of my summer was celebrating that. And what was nice is, for playing this character for 25 years, I did a lot of nice kind of build up to it. I did the 25 days to Mr. Pierogi's 25th, and Mr. Pierogi has his own Facebook page. So I did a post a day that talked about specific people who had been part of that journey, who I'd met along the way and things like that. And
see you, Joe.
Good night, Joe. It was kind of cool to look back over a quarter century of things that I've done and just kind of recap in a really, really fun way. So that was a big highlight of summer was Pierogi Fest. That was fun too.
Pierogi Fest. Well, I mean, we can all talk about that.
It's always a highlight of summer.
Pierogi Fest is a big highlight. Obviously being part of your, being a resident doughboy. Oh, what I wouldn't give to be a doughboy right now. But being that part, the playing part and being a part of that is always fun. But even aside from that, you and I and Jess always make a thing out of Pierogi Fest. Like it's like we start planning it like months in advance. Like, make sure you get that time off from work. You know, the girls start planning, like, what are you going to wear? You know, they do.
What's our theme this year?
You guys pick out, you guys start planning Pierogi Fest outfits. Like, Friday night, yeah, probably wear this. Sunday, we're going to be out all day.
Big deal.
It is. They make a big
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. They make a big deal out of it. We plan out, like, we try
I made masks this year.
Those masks were awesome.
Oh, I should have got a picture of that. Yeah, those are
yeah.
great.
So the Saturday night of Pierogi Fest, we had played as Mr. Pierogi and the Doughboys at like one of our resident bars, Bulldog Brewing in Whiting, and Megan was kind enough to print my face as Mr. Pierogi and cut the eyes out so the rest of the band could be on stage and we could all be Mr. Pierogi at the same time.
But we didn't tell Matt that we were doing it.
No, I had no idea.
He all of a sudden turned around and there was myself and Adam and Colin all wearing his face standing there.
It was great. I loved it.
I thought it was pretty funny. Well, we won't.
Well,
we
one of the
won't
funniest
get
things
into
to
the
me,
politics of it, but there was other reasons why we did that too. But
yeah. One of my favorite thing was you're like, I cut out 4 of them. You have your face. Why did I cut out one for you?
What was I thinking?
It's awesome.
So, but yeah, we thought it was great. There is so much that went on with that. Even Kevin, from the owner of Bulldog Brewing, who's our good buddy and everything, and he's such a character in himself. We love him. Even him, you know, he was like, "We're putting the speakers up in the windows this year. We're gonna make everybody happy to listen to Mr. Pierogi." There was a lot of like, we really made sure that Mr. Pierogi went out with a bang,
and you guys did, and it was awesome. I cannot thank you enough for that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But Matt, you also went on like some other things and stuff too, because you.
Oh yeah, we did. So we did Ren Fair this summer. We used to go a lot when I was younger. So. In my late teens, I worked for Fright Fest. I was one of the characters.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was one of the characters in the Southwest Scaratory.
Oh, that's cool.
And I did it for 3 or 4 years. And a lot of the actors that would do Fright Fest were also Ren Fair actors as well, because it was right up there. They lived in that area, and it's what you did over the summer. So I used to go to the Ren Fair quite a bit because I knew so many people from Fright Fest and made friends and things like that. And we hadn't been in the last couple of years. And with my boys getting older, we're like, this is the perfect time to introduce them to the Renaissance Fair. And we had a blast. They got to ride their little mini dragons, and we had our giant pickles on sticks, and it was fantastic. You guys have been to the Renaissance Fair before, right?
I've never gone.
Oh my gosh.
Never gone.
It's amazing. It's stepping back in time. It's really cool.
Yeah,
jousting and axe throwing.
I shot an arrow and got a bullseye.
Nice.
I was like, oh, did you see that? It's pretty awesome.
I've heard about you and the arrow and the bullseye. I was glad I wasn't anywhere near, because with my luck, she would have hit me with it. But
probably.
But I've never been. Maybe one day.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, and my wife and I, both being actors, we love to get dressed up. Like, there's not a whole lot of time that we can like throw something on. So she got this beautiful dress with the corset on it.
Gorgeous.
And the boys, so I get to be my pirate. And my boys, one of them was a dragon and the other one was the dragon rider. So they got to, it was just a blast. Yeah. So we did that. We went down to Tennessee for a week, and that was awesome. One of the highlights down there, I think we may have talked about this. I'm a huge Titanic fan. Love anything about it, the history of it.
Yeah, me too.
When Robert Ballard found it and I think we talked about this too. We had the chance when I was in grade school to go to the Museum of Science and Industry, and he was up on screen on the boat, and one of our class members got to ask, and fucking Mary Barlow got to ask that question.
I remember you telling us that story.
I've been jaded ever since. But down in Tennessee, they have one of the largest Titanic museums down there with a lot of artifacts that have been pulled up and stories and things like that. And it's really cool. Before you start the exhibit, they give you a card as one of the passengers. And at the end of it, you get to find out if you lived or if you died.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Which is really cool. So you find out if you're, first, second, third class, things like that. And the first card that they handed to me was one of the musicians. I'm like, can I have another one? Because, the guys all die on the deck. And he's like, yeah, here you go. And sure enough, the musician died, But they had a replica of the Steinway grand piano in the center room that you could actually get up and play, which was really cool. So one of the women that we went on vacation with is a music teacher, so we got to listen to her play on this beautiful piano and everything like that. But it's really cool because on one portion of the exhibit, you're in the wheelhouse, and you actually get to step out into what would have been the temperature on that night. So you get out there and it's frigidly cold in this particular room. And then on the the outer area of this room, they have like a trough of water that is actually the temperature of what it was, the 28 degrees. And you put your hand in there and feel the cold air and the water. And it gives you that real sense of, how bad it was that night and things like that. But they have a replica of the grand staircase that you can take pictures on. It was just amazing. And then it's really cool, like as time has gone on and they've discovered, like in the movie, the ship broke in half, and that's what was believed at the time. Prior to that, they all thought it sunk it in one piece.
Right.
And then they realized it was two pieces. Now, with all the research they've done, it actually broke into three pieces. So there's an entire portion of the exhibit that now talks about the research that went in to figure out how that happened and everything. But one of the coolest things was there was an older gentleman who was at the very, very end, and he was talking about his experiences with one of the financiers of this specific museum, and this multimillionaire billionaire who had gone down a couple of times and brought up some of the artifacts and things. But this older guy was actually had the opportunity to go down with him one time, and he's telling his stories of being on the little mini sub and going down and actually seeing the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, firsthand and everything, and how when they went down, they brought some of the artifacts and some of the pieces of metal from the ship. But what was really cool is as he's talking about they brought these pieces of metal up and they put them into this preservation tank where it basically dissolves all of the rust and things and gives the piece of metal back what it was, because if you bring it up too quickly from the seabed, it's just going to completely deteriorate. So you need to put it into a solution in order to kind of take away the oxidation or something like that, in order to then take the piece out and have it back in our oxygen now.
Gotcha.
But what was cool is as he's talking about it, as all of these rust pieces are falling off into the solution, he asks the whoever's working on this, he's like, well, what do you guys do with the pieces of rust? And they're like, oh, we just throw those away. Those are junk. He's like, no. That's rust that was on the Titanic for X amount of years down at the bottom of the ocean. I want all of that. So he pulls out this little circle that's not much bigger than your camera lens cover. And sure enough, inside of there is a piece of the rust. And he's like, do you guys want to hold it? So we got to pass it around.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
we actually got to, we didn't touch the piece of metal, but I'm holding in my hand a genuine piece that came off of the Titanic.
Yeah.
And it was just so incredibly humbling. It was awesome. It was one of those cool moments of
touching history.
Yeah, I'm touching history, and it was awesome.
Well, I'm so into history anyway, and especially a lot of those crazy events like that. I mean, go figure, miserable fucker that I am and everything. One of my favorite books of all time was a book that my dad got called Darkest Hours. It's a really big, thick book that was published back in the late 70s, early 80s. And it just details, it's just like a reference book for all the great disasters in human history.
Oh.
So there's a ton of stuff in there about the Titanic. There's tons of stuff in there about the Hindenburg. There's tons of stuff in there about the bubonic plague, blah, blah, blah. And I read that whole book. That's why I know so much about a lot of that stuff. And I mean, I've read other books besides just that, but that was the one.
I've only read that book in my entire life.
Just that book. But I mean, I started reading that book when I was 8, or something like that.
That's some Makad type shit for any
girl,
it
was miserable. Yeah. Pretty miserable. But in any case, so yeah, that is very fascinating to me. I would love to go see something like that.
So what did you guys do in the outside world this summer?
Oh, Meg, you should. You want to talk about? Let's talk about what's pretty much become your whole world.
My whole world is my kitty cats. So
Aww.
I adopted this cat. She was living in my garage all this time over the winter, and so finally in March, I finally got her to come to me, and I got her inside, and like, okay, you're my kitty now, and then quickly found out she was pregnant. I was like, oh, okay. And she ended up getting up in my lap in mid-May, and had these babies in my lap on my bed.
That sounds messy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing experience to have her do that. She felt that comfortable with me in such a short amount of time too.
So you were like a kitty doula?
And and my mom kept saying, it's like, don't pick up the kittens. I was like picking them up and holding them. She's like, I can't believe she's not ripping your face off. You touching those newborn kitties. So
that's a serious level of trust.
I know, right?
Yeah, you and that cat just you guys just right away
bond,
it was.
She's all over me. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So she ended up having, the doctor said, maybe 2 to 3 kittens in there. She ended up having 5. And I
cat whisperer says Luke.
And I was like, well, originally I was going to adopt them out. They were going to go to good homes and stuff like that. And quickly I fell in love with every single one of them. So, and my parents as well, really, mostly my dad, because my dad says he hates cats. He loves cats. Yeah. He's the true cat whisperer here in the household. But yeah, so those are not going anywhere. I have
And
Blue.
What are their names?
I have Blue. She is a little attacker, like a dinosaur. Blue.
Yeah. Eyes on me, huh?
Yeah.
Eyes on me.
I have Amelia, who's my little adventurer. I have Harry, who is like Harry and the Hendersons. He's always getting into stuff that he shouldn't, destroying everything. I have Chewy, who's like a little hairy Chewbacca. And he loves chewing on things, so that's happy accident. Yeah. And then I have Shadow, who's my little Shadow. Aww. So those are my little babies. And
you've held on to the mother too, correct?
Yes, the mom's still with us.
You have 6?
Cleopatra.
Yep, I have 6. Cleopatra is the mom. So yeah, I have 6 Rugrats
running around everywhere. So was Cleopatra the one that fell into the well?
Okay, so so jumping forward of several months, the day before she was supposed to go get fixed, so I don't have to have any more kittens because I'll love them all and take them all. She disappears. We're like, where did she go? We can't find her. I know for sure she got outside. I was like, oh, she's gonna end up pregnant again. And I was like, sure, Dad, she got outside. He's like, no, I checked the cameras. She did not sneak past any of us. She's not out there. I was like, well, where is she? And we're up all night trying to find her, and none of us sleep really good. And next morning I get up and I hear meow. I'm like,
she's here somewhere.
Checking the other, because my parents have a cat too, so we have 7 cats in the house. I'm like checking all the other guys. Did you meow? Was that you? Who meowed here? And so I was like, oh, that's her. And I went right in front of my mom. I was like, I hear her. Where is she at? And so we think, because it's like we can hear her in the kitchen, and there's a door to go down to our basement right there. And I was like, well, she's got to be in the basement, because all our cats have always gotten in the basement. 26 years we've lived in this house, right? And so we go down there, and I can't hear her. Like, because there's like this crawl space that goes up under our kitchen. It's like, that's where she's got to be. But we go down there, I can't hear her meowing. I go back in the kitchen, I hear her plain as day meowing. I was like, it's open. I don't understand if that's where she's at. I should be able to hear her. Right. Even if I can't see her, I can hear her because she's so loud. And then I thought, well, maybe she's in the vent somehow. I don't understand. But if I go to all the other vents, I can't hear her. I was like, this is so freaking bizarre. I don't understand. So I cancel everything I'm supposed to do that day. And we end up calling the police and the fire department, and they have me call 911. It's like, that seems a little extreme, but okay, I'll do that. And I was totally blaming. It's like, the fire department told me to call 911. Don't send me to jail. This is emergency. They told me to call. But so the police, sheriff comes out and stuff like that. They're like, don't know. I'm baffled. He's like, maybe call a plumber. So we called the plumber, and he's like, I don't know. I'm baffled. I can't tell you. I mean, he was trying to get up in there, and where the fuck is this cat? In the meantime, she's meowing less and less and less. At the point, she's been missing 24 hours. Oh my God, we're looking, how long can a cat survive with no food or water? And it's a couple days, 4 or 5 days. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're not that part, but why she stopped meowing? Why can't I hear her now? So we're trying to find a contractor where he can come out, and I'm like, you know what? We just put this floor in. We've always had this nebulous relationship with our kitchen floor. It's been an issue. Yeah. Now we know why. But so can't get carpenter. They're like, maybe 2 to 4 days. It's like, freaking cat's gonna be dead by then. Are you kidding me right now? No. So I was like, oh, the guy I have at work. So I called him. I was like, can you please? My cat's busy. Come get around. Come cut my floor out, please. And so he ends up coming to my rescue. And so Toddco, if I ever meet him, Toddco's your guy. He's like, they do everything, carpentry, plumbing, they do it all. And so he comes out, and they're looking around. They bring a camera out. They're digging it in there and everything like that, trying to find this cat. And I finally convinced him, please. My dad's like, just cut the floor. He's like, you just put this in. I don't want to cut the floor. I was like, cut the floor. So he finally cut. He's like, fine, we'll cut the floor. So he goes over to the opposite side of the kitchen. And we're telling you, there's a crawl space there. It's bigger down there. We've had a hole there before because it's fucking kitchen floor. And so he finally cuts a hole there, and I dive in, and I'm looking around. I was like, she's not here, and I can't hear her. She's not here. Where the fuck is she? It's between this one and the other side of because we're on either side of the kitchen now, we should be able to see this fucking cat somewhere, and she's not there. And then my dad goes, cut another hole. And they're like, are you fucking kidding me? This is a fucking cat. Are you serious right now? I was like, he's like, cut another hole. I'm telling you. So they go over, by the refrigerator, like in the middle. So we're kind of in the middle-ish now. And the guy starts cutting a hole. He's like, there's a well here. I'm like, what? There's not a well there. Are you crazy? And I go over there. It's like, holy crap, there's a well. I was like, put the tape measure down there. How deep is that? He's like, that's pretty deep. I was like, how deep? And he's like going and going and going. 10 feet deep well.
Wow.
Open well under our freaking kitchen floor.
So how does this work like in the crawl space? Like how do you not see that there's like a well if you're in that crawl space?
Because I'm guessing, because the house sits on the well.
Okay.
For one. So it just looks like a wall. And there's the pipe, the air ducts and stuff like that that were in the way from the first hole. You couldn't see it.
Oh, okay.
And the other one, there's all the, there's
I mean, that's a serious hole.
That's a serious hole. I had a
I'm not going to lie. I feel like this could be a podcast episode in and of itself.
In itself? Yeah.
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 You notice that I appropriately, I put the fucking big hole over the big hole. Yeah.
So yeah, this is what we found underneath our kitchen. And like literally the foundation of a kitchen floor sits on this well that's crumbling.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had them. And that's sure enough, that's where she fucking was. And that's why I couldn't hear her meowing in the crawl space.
Because she was in the well and not the crawl space.
The well 10 feet down.
No, you were telling me though, like this hole originally had wood over it, right? Was it like kind of boarded over?
Yeah, so we're guessing, because like I said, we've had cats go down here a gazillion times. Mm-hmm. Okay, like 15 different cats go down in here, never fallen in this well. So it clearly, it had a wood top on it. And so I don't know if it recently fell in or she was on it, because like, why would she even go on there and fall into it? Cats are perceptive enough to see how deep it is.
Right.
But maybe she was on it and then it collapsed with her on top of it. It was so weak. I don't know for sure. But there was a little bit of wood down at the bottom and there was some water down there. So at least she did have access to some water. So this is actually
I remember
like
one of the pictures that you posted on Facebook was like you could see the cat from, her at the bottom of it. And that was weirdly creepy.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Because I didn't realize it was 10 feet down. Like the way that the picture was, the depth perception, it didn't look like it was that deep.
It didn't
look like she was that far down.
It was 10 foot down. I couldn't just reach in there and grab her.
Oh.
Like, geez, is she broken? Did she break a leg or something like that? So
how many evil spirits have come out of that well?
Yeah, I was going to ask, was there a black-haired girl that like crawled out?
I was like, yeah, so when the firefighters show up, they're like, so, what do they say? Asked if I needed lotion. Or if my name was, one of the cats was Timothy or something
Timmy O'Toole at the bottom of the well.
Timmy O'Toole at the bottom of the well. Did he fall in the well again and stuff like that? Yeah. So they had so of course, as soon as we found the cat, they're like, well, call the fire department again. So they came out and Todd Coe was like, you are not going to believe this. I've seen a lot of shit in my day. This takes the cake. This is absolutely insane. But the weird part of it is like, there's always been a storied tale that Al Capone's been connected to our house because our house was built in 1880. Okay, so it's super old. And there always has been tell that a tunnel connects our house to the barn next door to us as an escape route. So when the cops showed up to collect people, they could escape through the tunnel. So as soon as it opens, like, oh, did we find it? And that's the first words out of the firefighters' mouths too. It's like, oh, did you find Al Capone's tunnel? So, and it basically it opens up underneath there, the opening, and it's like our whole kitchen. There's a big hole underneath it.
Did you get to go down there?
I did not. I would totally I would have dove right in.
I know,
and
that's kind of been my thing. Is I was like, I mean, I get it. You're like, okay, we got to seal this back up, but I'm just sort of like, I
want to go down and explore.
I want to explore because I realize you're saying, well, it's a well, and I'm like, yeah. But it's a really weird place for it, and it's weird that it's been there and nobody ever knew about it, and it just makes me wonder, without going down there and exploring, like, is there any chance that there could have been some...
Like a false wall or something that's in there?
Or something that's in there that could go to that fucking barn. And
well, I ain't going digging too much, because there could be dead bodies down there that he buried, too.
Well, that's fair. Fair enough.
If I were you, I'd be putting like a manhole cover in the middle of my kitchen so I could at least like go down there and check it out later.
I said we missed a golden opportunity to film a
teaser down there.
Yeah, that would have been awesome
with that.
Yeah, floor's all put back down. Everything's good. Yeah. We had it sealed and covered, and because there was water and moisture, that explains why our floor's all wobbly and stuff like that. So
makes sense.
That was a crazy cat experience that we found.
Man,
quite the story.
Oh, and real quick, because I saw that she mentioned, it's a quick backtrack, but Tammy mentioned about her go-to TV stuff was PBS, that she watches more PBS now than anyone should. Who does that sound like?
You.
That's yeah. I subscribe to but on Amazon I've subscribed to a bunch of PBS related documentary channels and stuff, and that's the thing. Like, I guess I'm just getting old. Like, everybody's like, oh, have you watched this awesome, horror thing or sci-fi thing and everything? And I'm like sitting there watching like 8-hour PBS documentaries about jazz. That's what I watch, and I'm like, oh, I'm totally wrapped up and invested in this. Tell me more about Charlie Parker. But that's my idea of entertainment. Right. I'll watch documentaries constantly. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
Yeah,
We've been going at this for about 2 hours.
Yeah. But how about you, Larry? Did you do anything outside of in the real world that was awesome over the summer?
I mean, I got to go to Kentucky. We always do that. That's like a traditional family thing. So we went to Kentucky, and that was nice. That was enjoyable. No, unfortunately, my summer ended up being tainted. You guys had to deal with COVID, and I had to deal with. Because on August 1st, I went in to have this kidney stone thing dealt with, and wound up with a hematoma in my kidney. So
that knocked you down for a while.
Yeah, for the people that saw my posts on Facebook, and that I had to cancel a bunch of gigs, and that I was, I'm back out gigging now, kind of slowly but surely, trying to get back to speed. But I do still have this hematoma on my kidney and everything. That it's going to take months to properly heal, so I have to be careful. But that really kind of, I'm glad that I still got to do, I still got to go to concerts. I still did get to play a bunch of shows, leading up to that. I did get to go to Kentucky. I did, there was cool stuff. Oh, I should say, with Doom, I got to play a couple of November's Doom gigs. I did get to go to Maryland, and I played at the Maryland Death Fest, which was great. We played in front of, a couple thousand people there. That was great. Maryland Death Fest was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we got to do that. And then almost immediately after that, I went to the NAMM music convention out in California, which I think I talked about that a little bit before on here. It's cool, but it was kind of weird. It still isn't really back to where NAMM
pre-COVID.
Was pre-COVID. It was a whole other thing. I did talk to the guys at Duncan today and found out that we are going to be at NAMM in April for sure.
Nice.
That's a given thing, and that there's going to be, I think it's going to be more back to kind of how it used to be. There's going to be more people displaying and less restrictions and stuff like that. Knock on wood, provided nothing goes wrong in between now and then. But so I'm grateful. When I look back on the summer, I think I'm like, man, I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. Aside from, and even before I had the kidney stone thing, I wasn't feeling good through a lot of this summer. Some of it was probably the kidney stone stuff acting up and various things that were going on. As Matt always likes to say, your body hates you.
Your body hates
my body hates me. I'm anything I did in my youth in the first 25 years of life or whatever.
You're paying for it now.
The second 25 years, I've paid for it and everything. So yeah, being old sucks, but trying to make the best of it. And I've got more stuff coming up. I got more Doom shows coming up. I'll be traveling to Atlanta in November to play another festival with Doom. We're going to do a cool show with Gate Creeper in Chicago here in a few weeks. And hopefully next summer, when we do our summer wrap up, I'll be able to talk about going and doing some traveling. We're trying. It's so hard because everybody didn't do shit for 2 years or more. Now every metal festival, every metal tour, everybody's trying to get on it because everybody's trying to get back out there at the same time. Everybody's got albums coming out. So we're trying to get on the European festivals again and everything. We've got a couple of leads of possibilities. It's just we know we can get on the metal festivals. It's just got to make sense. Like we can't just go and book them. Like it's got to be like touring, routing wise, money wise. It's got to make sense. But hopefully, when we do this next fall, I can sit there and be like, yeah, I went and played this fest in Germany and this fest in Czech Republic and blah 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 blah, and I'll have something more exciting to talk about than just like, yeah, my kidney hurts. You know.
I'll make you guys go do the Rugged Maniac with me next year.
The Rugged Maniac. I forgot about the Rugged Maniac. And yeah, let's end on that. Megan, you are a Rugged Maniac.
So yeah, I went and did 3.15 mile obstacle race.
Yeah.
5K or whatever it is. And I loved it. I was super sore and I got super sick because it was in the rain. So that's when I had my cold in August right after that. It knocked me down, but it was so worth it. I had such a blast. That's me doing the leaping, jumping frog thing.
Yeah. I
knew I was going to fall in, but I didn't.
And it sucks. I was going to go with her so that I could like film it so that we could so we could like watch it and see her like falling in mud and all this stuff. It'd be I'd put the Benny Hill yakety sax music over it. That'd be fucking hilarious. But I was still not.
You're still
I was not feeling up to it and everything to go, so she had to do it on her own.
Yeah, I was very impressed by that. You kicked some serious booty.
It was. I enjoy the heck out of these. It's so challenging, and I was like all year. I knew I was going to be doing it. I needed to get in the gym and make for sure I was ready for it. And I didn't do shit.
You didn't do any of it.
I didn't do any of that.
Nope.
So, but you completed it, and that's.
But I did it. Those stupid monkey bars that get me every time. I haven't been able to do this since I was a little kid. I've never been able to do them.
I love monkey bars, man.
I just
love
cannot
the monkey bars.
do
so
it.
much fun.
So I got to really work on that for next year because I try. I was like, oh man, we're done. I'm in the water, but. I get such a thrill out of doing those and stick me in the mud. I'm a good old down Oklahoma girl.
You like
doesn't bother me a bit.
You like dirt and you are a ball of energy. I will give you that, man.
I ran to the first 2 obstacles. Like, all right, enough of that mess. I'm walking the rest of the way. I need to save my energy to get up and over these things. Yeah, so
I don't know if I could have.
Clever girl.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
So it was a blast. I can't wait to do it next year. Make you 2 bozos go with me next
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'll totally do it next year.
All right, you're in.
I
already got my ticket, so
I'm in.
I'll film it.
We can always get you a ticket and you can film next to us.
I mean, I'll run next to you guys and I'll film it, but I don't want to. I'm going to get mud in my hair, and I take a lot of time. I try to fix my hair, and you touch it, and why do you got to touch it?
He's gonna beat me. He's like,
yes.
He hates when his hair's touched.
Yeah, I don't like when people
don't do that.
touch my hair.
Don't do that.
Touch my hair. Don't touch my face. Don't touch my. I hate when people touch my face. It's like automatic. Like I'm like the fuck away from me.
Yeah, he almost kicked my ass the other night when I did
yeah, when you guys were during Sweet Caroline.
Where hands touching hands.
Yeah, I'm sitting there watching our friends Beaver and Aaron play Sweet Caroline, and then when it gets to the touching hands, these 2 all of a sudden reach out and start touching me, and I was like
We were touching. We were reaching out and touching. That's what you're supposed to do. The song said to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, this has been a lot of fun. It's been nice to kind of exercise all this, get it out before we move on. Because the next thing I think we're going to do, we've got a couple of cool things coming up. We got a special thing coming up in a few Sundays.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Yep.
As long as the big, bald, beautiful one doesn't back out on us and everything, we may have, finally, for the first time, all 4 Geeking Poetic hosts on an episode.
That's going to be a blast.
Same room.
And what we're going to do is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to kind of be a recap of something, or a continuation of something we did a few years ago. Maybe dealing with some Nintendo. That's all I'm going to say.
And pizza.
Nintendo and pizza and us 4 clowns. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a blast.
So as soon as we have that all confirmed, we will remind everybody. It won't be our usual Tuesday night. It's going to be a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then after that, coming up towards the end of the month, it's going to be Halloween. And we've got some fun planned for Halloween. We're going to have we're going to do a little top 5. It's been a while since we haven't done a top 5.
Yeah, this will be a fun one.
But it's going to be a fun one.
Path top 5.
Yeah, it is, but it's perfect for Halloween at the same time. And it's going to be fun. And it's one that I think all of you are going to be able to chime in. There's going to be a lot of people chiming in on that one and having their own
opinions.
Opinions and 2 cents to throw in.
Word.
So we have some really, really fun stuff coming up. And we thank everybody that stuck around with us or jumped in halfway through or whatever. But it is
catch us on the replay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and please, by all means, if you have the gumption, tell your friends, share this video later on your Facebook or wherever. Like, get the word out about this show. We're still very slowly trying to build up, but the more viewers we get and everything, the more we can do this and do a lot more cool stuff with it. So we appreciate everybody's support. As always, we will see you on Facebook in the Geeking Squad, where we welcome everybody. We've got a bunch of people in there. I'm seeing new people, new faces.
All the time, new people.
Yeah, Alex
Halloween,
is excited about the Halloween. Yeah, yep. I remember Halloween. Yep, sing some Misfits for me. But yeah, this is Misfits Samhain time of year. I'm going to be listening to some Samhain the next month. But anyway, thanks everybody. Thank you for everything. So, bye-bye.